If I do what you say, I might turn into a robot, do my chores day after day, and they don't want any lip. Oh, so step off, step off.
Yeah, that's the School of Rock bit, right?
Yeah, kind of fits with some of our movies, you know? A
little bit, yeah.
Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah, definitely that one.
They should have had that as the ending credits for Ghost in the Shell.
They should have.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to... I'm going to make a little list right now of what I think your ranking's going to be.
Oh, yes. Let me do that for you.
But, welcome back to another episode of Screen Weens. This is obviously another director deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at Mamoru Oshii, the director of Ghost in the Shell, Patlabor... Or Patlabor. I'm going to call it Patlabor still, though. Angel's Egg. What else did he do? He's pretty much the big guy behind, the Jinro, series. He wrote, I think, the script for Jinro, but, the universe around that, he was pretty much the guy behind that. Two of his live-action films are set in that universe. I think Jinro's technically, the third in that series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think originally, it might have started as a manga that he wrote for, but there was also a radio drama of the first film in the series. There was, a radio drama, and then the next year they adapted it into a film.
Interesting. Huh. I wonder... well, I guess it wouldn't translate very well unless it had subtitles, but I wonder if anyone's, translated that.
Yeah, I would be interested in at least reading a transcript as I listen to it or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch anything good this week?
Well, obviously, I know Thomas knows most of the things I watched this week, but I did watch, I started to watch the Full Moon series, Killjoy.
Ah, yes, classic.
The way it's been building up, I feel like, if it keeps going, I'll really like Killjoy 4.
Oh.
Because I gave the first Killjoy a 1 out of 10.
Okay.
And I gave the second Killjoy a 3 out of 10.
Oh.
And I gave the third Killjoy a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
So theoretically, I should give this a 7 out of 10, and I should give Killjoy 5 a 9 out of 10. I highly doubt these things are going to happen.
But
you never know.
Yeah, if it keeps up on that trend.
I also watched 6 Lupin the Third movies.
Yeah, I watched a couple partial ones with you, and then I watched the one whole one.
And you didn't really like it.
You
thought it was okay, right?
I thought, I liked the personality of the film and the characters. I just thought that particular film was not particularly good, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you. I watched the Tekken live-action movie.
Oh boy, how was that?
I actually liked it.
Okay.
I actually really liked it. It may have been me and Pierre just having a ton of fun, but I had a ton of fun with it. I was like, this is pretty fun.
Huh. I don't know if I'd like it. I don't think I'd be able to get into any of those, arcade fighting...
fighting game movies. Yeah, I feel it. I don't know. No, I liked it so much that I bought Tekken 7.
Oh, nice.
So I'm playing a little bit of that as well. And then obviously I've seen almost every Street Fighter movie now. At least the animated ones.
I've seen Street Fighter 2 now.
They're just all terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 I watched, the alpha ones, I thought were fine. But, I just did not have fun with those. Yeah, so mostly just anime and Killjoy, and then we obviously have been meeting up every day online and watching stuff together, so, I rewatched 12 Angry Men, which was fantastic for me. And then everything else I've like mostly enjoyed. I did not. We watched Pride and Prejudice, and I thought it was kind of garbage. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I wasn't too crazy about it.
I was like, I didn't think it was like terrible, but I just didn't like almost anything about it.
Yeah, it was certainly no Little Women. That's for sure.
Exactly. By the way, you're echoing a little bit.
Am I?
I guess I am echoing a little. Yeah, I can hear myself.
Oh, sorry. Here, I'll move my head back a little bit so that the it doesn't get picked up. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. Did you do anything else this week besides hanging out with us? Like, did you watch anything?
I didn't watch anything else as far as I can remember. I did do some reading. Nice. The new Berserk chapter came out this
pretty epic
week. It was pretty good. Not a whole lot happened. It was just kind of building upon the chapter that came out last year. But it's built like it was pretty good. It ended with, I'm not gonna like spoil what's going on in the story, but Skull Knight came out and started talking to Guts again, so you know shit's about to get real.
He's like, I'm Skull Knight.
He's like, oh, Doom is coming for you. Oh, as he usually does. So it's just like, I'm excited. I can't wait for the follow-up chapter to be released in another year, probably. Oh boy, being a Berserk fan is great stuff. Yeah, I've done a little gaming. I was playing some Fortnite. I stopped playing Ark this week. The server me and Lucero were playing on got raided a few too many times, and we just kind of both were like, all right, fuck this. This isn't fun anymore. Yeah, I started playing a little bit of Demon Souls, but like I just kind of started like right as like leading up to this episode, so I wanted to
and we had to watch 5 things for the episode.
Yeah, so I took to prioritize that, obviously, but yeah, that was pretty much my week.
Cool. Demon Souls is pretty good from what I remember. I haven't played it in quite a while, but
I enjoy it.
I'm not like a huge fan of the Souls games. Like, I like them, but
this is the only one I've ever actually played.
Okay.
I was playing a little bit of an older From Software game for PS2 called Eternal Reign, because they're doing their new Elden Ring in a couple months.
Oh, how was that?
It was pretty easy. I got stuck in this area because, like, basically the beginning of the game, you work your way through this little cave where you fight enemies, and then you find yourself in this, like, little town where you're supposed to go, and they're like, oh, yeah, here, our captain's sleeping. Let me write you this thing for the warehouse, and we'll take your sword, and you can go get a new sword. So they take my sword, and I swear I have explored every single goddamn pixel that this PS2 game has to offer. I've gone everywhere. I don't know where the fuck I'm supposed to go. Or what I'm supposed to do.
Sounds about right.
So,
time to pull up a walkthrough.
Exactly. It's like, oh shit, I remember why I couldn't get into video games as a kid, because I'd always run into shit like this back in the PS2 era.
That's what happened to me with a lot of games. So if it wasn't like a pretty straightforward like platformer, I'd be like, this game's too hard.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, aside from that, just watching the nightly movies with the crew, and yeah, with Gru. Yeah, but hopefully I like Killjoy 4 and 5. That's the hope. I hope you do.
So I don't feel like I've wasted my time yet again.
I hope it's not another Puppet Master for you.
I mean, at the very least, I really liked Puppet Master 5.
Well, at least there's that.
I thought 3 was okay.
How many?
I still have a couple more Puppet Masters to go.
Hey, it's the modern era. Maybe he's learned from his past mistakes and has some interesting, new, innovative ideas for Puppet Master to take forward.
The director of the new Puppet Master, like solo for, there's a Blade film coming out, which is like the main puppet from Puppet Master.
Yeah.
And it's being directed by the guy that took over the Killjoy franchise with 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, okay.
So theoretically, if he like does a good job, I might be kind of excited for Blade.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be fair enough.
But I don't like Full Moon, but I'm like I don't know if I can say that anymore because I watch a lot of Full Moon movies, even if I hate them.
I watched a lot of them growing up because I had no standards growing up as a horror fan, but I don't think I could ever like sit down and down them like I did when I was a little kid.
Probably not.
Oh man, they're so bad. Most of them are.
Most of them are quite not good. I just don't get why people like the first Puppet Master. I'm surprised it was able to become a franchise after such a bad first entry.
Yeah, well...
But I mean, so did Killjoy.
I get... It must have something to do with how cheap the films are made. He must just be able to turn a profit.
Yeah, I think the total budget for like all 14 Puppet Master films is like $4 million.
Oh my god, that's so little for so many movies.
Yeah.
Do you think they've made more than that? They've had to have.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I feel like Full Moon
is probably writing off Puppet Master alone up to a certain point.
Yeah. I wonder how much money his Puppet Master made. Yeah, it looks like 4.23 million is how much Puppet Master has spent on their movies.
Oh man. I'll give it to Charles Band, dude. He knows how to turn a profit.
I need to see how much money Puppet Master's made, though.
Yeah, not only through the movies, because those were like video store gems back in the day. They were all over the place, but just off merchandising alone, I remember having the VHS tapes and seeing like all the like little Puppet Master puppets you could order, and they had like the same with Killjoy. I'm pretty sure they still have most of that shit still up on their website, probably, if I had to guess. But because I'm sure there's some hardcore Full Moonians out there who
yeah. I'd probably, if I had a Full Moon t-shirt, I'd wear it. And I'd be like, I hate this company so much.
Yeah.
You know, we should really take a look at who's the better, like, distribution company, production distribution company. Is it A24 or Full Moon Features?
Well, which one do you think is honestly more likely to work with independent filmmakers? I don't know if like Full Moon is like a little club, like it's just like Charles.
It seems like it's mostly Charles Band and his ragtag crew of misfits.
Yeah, I guess
it feels like it's the same like 5 directors for every fucking Full Moon, at least like bigger Full Moon Features.
We should try to go and just make movies for Full Moon.
Alright, Charles, man, I got an idea for a Puppet Master movie. So, you have some really bad dialogue, and you have these camera angles. It's like, look, it's from the puppet's point of view. And then nothing happens for 80 minutes. And that's the movie. That's like every fucking Puppet Master movie, just nothing happens. Actually, most Full Moon movies, just nothing happens.
Yeah. I mean... Yeah.
Full Moon just kind of scares me. I mean, they have put out good movies. I really liked Intruder.
But it's just, I haven't seen Intruder, so...
It has Bruce Campbell for like 2 seconds.
I love his little, whenever like a movie... I got duped so much as a kid, because it would be like, Bruce Campbell's in this movie. I'm like, fuck yeah. And then he'd be in like 2 scenes, and I'd be like, no, that wasn't enough. Like, he's in like the intro scene of Congo and From Dusk Till Dawn too. And it's just like, these movies advertised Bruce Campbell. Or at least I was told they had Bruce Campbell in them by like my parents or something. I don't know. I just remember being extremely disappointed with the lack of Campbell.
I'm really scared because once I'm done with Puppet Master, because I'm a fucking psychopath, I'll probably watch all 7 Evil Bong movies.
I've seen...
You've seen a couple, right?
I've seen the first 2 in a whole, and I think I got like halfway through the 3rd one before I went like, what the fuck am I doing?
I mean, I've seen Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong.
Yeah, you've had a taste of what you're getting into.
Yeah, which is funny because that was one of the first... my first experiences with fucking Full Moon. That may have been my first experience.
I remember when you were like first kind of getting into them, and then I lured you in with Demonic Toys.
Demonic Toys is good.
Demonic Toys is fun. I like that movie, like just as a fun little goofy movie to watch in the background sometimes.
I'm somewhat excited for Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys.
Have you seen Demonic Toys 2 yet?
No, not yet.
I wasn't able to get into it when I like tried to watch it a few years ago. I think it was partly because just like there's like just this clear difference, and I think it's kind of easier to watch cheaper movies that were made from the 90s than it is cheaper movies that were made in the 2000s.
Because it's hard to watch, like, high-definition garbage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it really is.
It really shows off all the flaws, like, exponentially more. Yeah. Like, with kind of 90s, 80s, you know, with older camera equipment and, like, lighting setups, a lot of it can be...
Covers a lot of it up.
Cute, even, like, endearing.
Yes. And it's just like, oof, because that transition to digital, I just remember like seeing like some cartoonish character like run into a museum, and I was like, oh man, this looks bad. But I'll watch it eventually.
Charles Band. Honestly, knowing me, I'll probably just watch it after this. I'll be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go watch Demonic Toys 2.
Yeah. I mean, that could be something you do with your time. If you stream it, I might watch it with you.
I might. Fuck. I'm hoping that I like Doll Man versus Demonic Toys as well.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Demonic Toys never got like a bigger thing. Because it's just like Puppet Master, but
I think they just spaced them out too much. Like, because it was what? Demonic Toys.
The first Demonic Toys came out in 92. And then Doll Man vs. Demonic Toys was the next year. It was 93, but then they didn't make another thing until Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys in 2004. Yeah. And then Demonic Toys 2 was 10 years ago. 2010.
Do you think we'll have to watch Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys and the Doll Man for continuity? I don't think so. I would hope not.
No. And then I gotta watch the fucking Ginger Dead Man movies. You know, I've actually heard that, like...
The first one's okay. It's aware of what it is, and it has Gary Busey in it. The sequels all have, like... It's not Gary Busey, it's some other guy. But... Yeah, the first one's alright. It's bad, but it's got its moments.
I just clicked on Ginger Dead Man 3, and I was looking through the cast list, and, they have people playing Jeffrey Dahmer and Hitler in the movie.
Ah.
Wait, they have 2 people playing Jeffrey Dahmer. No, just one person who's just there twice for whatever reason. Well, they do love their Hitler. Man, Charles Band's a psychopath.
Yeah.
I want to watch Trancers. I feel like I might like Trancers.
Maybe you will.
Oh, or I could just never watch a Charles Band movie again.
I feel like that's the winner right there. I feel like that's the only way you can truly win with how
I
far
feel like
you
if I
yourself.
went to like therapy, they'd tell me to stop watching Charles Band movies.
Yeah.
They're like, London, this is an unhealthy coping mechanism. Stop it.
Just you show your therapist just one, and they're like, yeah, I don't see how this could be healthy for anyone's mental state.
They're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Can you put me in contact with this Charles Band? I think he might be a danger to society.
We need to put him in prison.
I think if you look at the numbers, the amount of shootings in America corresponds with
Holy fuck. A release of Charles Band movie.
The more movies he made, the more shootings there were. Coincidence? I think not.
Oh.
All right. Well.
Okay, well, now that we're done talking about fucking Charles Band, let's answer some questions from Pierre.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's right. Pierre DePoyo. If you were a Hasbro Transformer, what would you transform into?
I don't know.
Gorilla, maybe?
A what?
Gorilla, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that answer. A big,
Have you ever seen the animation from Transformers Beast Wars?
No.
It was a CG, like a computer animated show from like the mid 90s.
Oh, that sounds
so
bad.
it looks terrible now. I remember seeing a couple episodes like when I was like 5 and be like, that's cool. But I feel like I'd be like Razor Scooter.
That's
so
good.
So then people would think I'm like a ghost because I'm haunted. I don't know. Or I'd be like something really big. Fire truck, maybe? Because then I can hit people with my ladder. There's a lot of things. I feel like I'd immediately transform into something and be like, I hate this. I want to be something else.
Yeah. I feel like
you know what? No. I'll just be Unicron. I'll be a giant planet.
There you go. Perfect.
That's what I would be. What sport would you like to see Air Bud play in an Air Bud reboot? I personally would like the dog to play Fortnite esports.
I think a movie where Air Bud just fucking pwns a bunch of rich white guys on the golf course would be pretty funny.
Yeah. I like it. I personally would like Air Bud to have a tennis scene. So perhaps a tennis-based movie. I don't think he's ever done that. Maybe, though. But tennis movies are pretty epic. We need more tennis movies, so I'm going to go with tennis.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds right. There might be like an Air Buddies tennis movie. I feel like I've seen tennis and the Air Bud brand collab before, but I can't say for certain because I've only ever seen like one movie from the entire franchise.
Oh my god, we should watch Air Bud. Alright, final question. Can you guys see through the lies of the Jedi?
Depends on the specific lie.
I would say yes. I'm well aware that the Jedi were pretty bad. Not as bad as the opposing force, but pretty bad. I'm well aware of that. I think it's really funny when people that are like original trilogy, like only people are like, the Jedi were these great guys. And I'm like, what the fuck? No, they weren't. Like the whole point of the franchise is to be like, maybe the Jedi weren't that great. At least when they got into like being crazy and be like, you can't love people. We're going to take away we're going to indoctrinate children.
Yeah. Pretty...
Oh, well, pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pretty hoo-hoo-ha-ha. Thank you, Pierre, for the questions, the undying loyalty to 2 Weens and a screen.
Thank you.
Don't forget to tell your brother and mother and stepdad to subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, let's talk about Mamoru Oshii. So, he's a pretty funny guy in that he's probably one of the most well-known anime or even Japanese film directors, mostly anime directors, that's like really focuses on like the philosophy of his films more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like him and Satoshi Kon, I would say as well. But he's still around, kicking it. There was a funny quote about, he was talking about like Miyazaki and like Ghibli films, and he was talking about how he's like really critical of them. He's like, I like them. He's like, I'm glad that, Miyazaki and, this was when Miyazaki's partner was there as well, are like around and doing stuff, but, he was pretty much like, I don't really like them.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I like Ghibli movies. Like I've enjoyed most of what I've seen, but yeah, they're just kind of like all right.
I like one of Ghibli's movies is like in my top movies of like all time, but I think that mostly what he was trying to say is that Ghibli movies are like super accessible to people.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's kind of one of those directors that's like, maybe movies shouldn't just be accessible to everyone. He's like, maybe I should just try to say something, and the people that like it.
Yeah. I'm definitely a fan of that philosophy.
But, so when he was growing up, he didn't really start working until he was like 26. He was mostly just like studying and stuff. He was born in 1951, but like pretty early on, he got super addicted to like European cinema. So like Fellini, Bergman were like huge people on his radar that he like loved their movies. He really liked the movie La Jetée, which I remember talking about on the podcast a couple months ago. It's this, I think it's like half an hour. It's this short film that's all told through narration and still images.
Yeah, I remember you talking about
it. It's really good. And I can kind of see, after seeing La Jetée, I can see that in some of his movies. He also like really liked like Godard and Tarkovsky. Mm. So these were all like huge influences on him. And he talked a lot about how his like dad really influenced him because his dad like loved movies. And I'm just like, man, I wish my parents liked movies more. Instead of just being like, here, London, watch Catwoman. But he graduated in 1976, and then he went into... he worked at a place called Tatsunoko Productions, where he was working on a fucking anime called Ipatsu Kantakun, I believe it's called. Which I think is a baseball anime. Huh. I'm not super familiar. I've only seen the picture, but he was a storyboard artist on that.
Okay.
And then he started to do a lot of other storyboard stuff for like a bunch of different things, but eventually he would move to Studio. What is it? Periot?
Oh, Periot. Yeah.
Periot.
Or that's how I always pronounced it.
And that's when he started like getting kind of big, because he was a big director on a bunch of episodes for Urusei Yatsuri, or Yatsura, my bad. And then he gained really big success with the second of those movies, because I think he did like 100 of those episodes as like the main director, and then he directed the first 2 movies in that franchise. And the second movie is like one of the first contemporary films to really experiment with things like time loops. To the point where people theorize that things like Groundhog Day are influenced by this anime film.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And then he started to do a lot of independent work right around the same time as well. So he was still working at Period, or what did you say, Period?
Yeah.
But he was starting to do his own OVA series, which was Dalos, which I wanted to watch. The thing is, I wanted to watch like all of his movies for this episode, but he did this thing called Dalos, which I've heard is really good. And then he wrote Angel's Egg. Angel's Egg was like one of his first big things, and it's theoretically where his like artistry shines through the most. At least his philosophical beliefs shine through the most. Mm-hmm. Like on a pure scale, in my opinion. But one of the producers of the film was fucking one of the founders of Ghibli, Toshio Suzuki, who founded it with Miyazaki and Takahata. Oh, okay. So I thought that was pretty cool, pretty interesting. They also were originally going to make a movie with Oshii called Anchor, but the film got canceled because the whole trio had pretty big artistic disagreements.
Oh, okay.
Huh. But I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence was actually co-produced by Ghibli.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Huh.
Yeah, so like they have worked together still. And yeah, the quote is, though he has been critical of Miyazaki's attitude towards his workers, he also claims that he would feel strangely empty and it would be boring if both Miyazaki and Takahata stopped making films. Well, one of those stopped making films. Got him.
Yeah.
And then, so I believe he left Period and he joined Headgear?
Yeah. And that's where he made Patlabor, or
that's where he made, yeah. And then that whole series, that whole crew would eventually move on to making, like, Ghost in the Shell. But during this time, between productions of the Patlabor movies, because one of them was, I think, 89, the other was, like, 93. And so, earlier on, he made The Red Spectacles, which was his first non-animated film, which was the beginning of this, Kerberos saga, which is Red Spectacles, Stray Dog, Kerberos, Panzer Cops, and then Jinro. And Jinro is an anime that wasn't directed by him, but it was, I believe, written and produced by him.
Okay.
And then there's another live-action movie he made called Talking Head, which I really wanted to watch, but I couldn't find anywhere. And it's this weird, like, meta movie about, like, a murder going on while, like, people are trying to finish making an anime or something like that. It sounded really interesting. And then, obviously, just a couple of years later, Ghost in the Shell came out, and that's what he's most known for.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest anime of all time. Like, people, you say Ghost in the Shell, people know what that is, even if they've never seen an anime in their life. They're like, oh, the Scarlett Johansson movie?
Yeah.
What's interesting is Ghost in the Shell 2 was actually the first and only movie or only anime film to compete in the Cannes Film Festival for the Palme d'Or, which is like the big one.
Yeah.
The best picture.
Huh.
But which is also interesting because Ghost in the Shell 2, when it came out, it kind of got mixed reviews. So yeah. I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
But. I know. I think a lot of that is because they switched to 3D animation for that one. So that might be where it stems from. That, and I know, I don't think it follows the path that the manga did. I'm pretty sure it's like its own thing. But
sounds about right.
I don't necessarily.
Oshii kind of does that a lot. He's like, I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he's just kind of been making stuff since. He did the Sky Crawlers in 2008, which was a pretty big movie. I've been meaning to watch that one as well.
Yeah, I've seen the poster for that one around.
And then he did a movie called Assault Girls, which was a sequel to his 2001 Avalon film. And I've heard Avalon's really good, and I've heard Assault Girls is really bad, so...
Huh.
Avalon's, I believe, about a video game. Like, it's a live-action film about people, like, in a video game.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Assault Girls is the same thing, but... I don't know. It seems like one of those movies that I'm going to like that nobody else does. And he's mostly just been kind of hanging out. He did a fucking live-action series. I think it was just a small, tiny series called Sand Whale and Me for Toonami in 2017.
I don't think I've heard of it.
And then I don't know if this is out yet. No, it's not out yet. The thing he's starting that's coming out this year is called Vlad Love, which is like a Japanese comedy anime series coming out later this year. It's apparently supposed to be like a slapstick comedy.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's what he's done. He's done a lot, and obviously his most notable thing is Ghost in the Shell, and that's the most, like, you can draw out parallels and fucking how impressionistic it's become because of that. Like, The Matrix, for instance, pulls out, like, pretty much whole scenes from Ghost in the Shell and just puts them into fucking The Matrix.
Yeah.
And the Wachowskis have multiple times said that, like, oh, that's a fucking epic. That's the fucking epic game. That's the epic movie.
I can see why. This is my first time watching Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, me too. It's been. I'm just always worried about watching movies that are so, like, highly praised.
Yeah, that, like, typically I don't have that problem a lot of the time. But this is one that, like, I don't know. I don't know why I haven't watched it. I've had it on Blu-ray for quite a long time. And just
I think I became more wary of watching it after I watched Akira and Evangelion and didn't, like, love either of those. I enjoyed both, but...
Yeah.
But I guess I'm a psychopath that hates B-stars.
I still can't comment on that. I still haven't seen it. Maybe I'll watch it after we finish this.
Watch Demonic Toys too. There's also, have you heard of the game franchise Killzone?
Yeah.
There's pretty clear inspiration, even though nobody said it, there's pretty clear inspiration for, like, the main things in that, the main designs of that from Shinro.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Apparently the game series have been like, no, they're just World War I helmets, but that doesn't, like, take into account that they have the exact same, like, red glowing eyes on the design. Then another influential thing is James Cameron really, really likes Ghost in the Shell, and he stated once that it's the first truly adult animation film to reach a level of literary and visual excellence. Which I don't know if I agree with the first, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I know James Cameron's, like, a big anime fan. There is that whole...
He watches Bleach every day.
The whole... I don't know how true this is. This might just be, like, rumors from, like, 2014 internet that I'm recalling. But, back when Parasite the Maxim came out, because that came out like 2014-ish, yeah. There's like rumors going around that it took so long because it's adaptation of like a manga that came out in the 90s. So everyone's like, oh, I wonder why this took so long to be animated. And people like Miyazaki had expressed interest in adapting it before. And apparently the rumor goes that James Cameron had planned on doing an adaptation of it, and had like purchased the rights for it after like making Terminator 2 or something like that, and then just nothing ever became of it. And then eventually, when the rights expired, they came around and did the live action movies in Japan, which caused them to make the animation for promotion. But yeah, a fun James Cameron rumor.
There's a person that works pretty closely with Oshii named Kazunori Ito. He's a screenwriter, and he did Ghost in a Shell, and he also did the Gamera trilogy. So I was a little worried because I thought the scripts in Gamera 1 and 2, I still haven't seen the third yet, were really bad. So I was really worried because he also did the script for Patlabor, the 2 Patlabor movies. So I was like, uh-oh. And he also works really closely with Kenji Kawai, who is a composer who is done like I possibly like almost all of his movies. Let's see. Maybe not all of them. I think he did all of the ones we watched, possibly. He did Ghost in the Shell, he did Patlabor 1 and 2. I think he did the OVA series as well. He might not have done Angel's Egg, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it looks like... Yeah, Yashihiro Kano did the composition for Angel's Egg. But yeah, Oshii seems to, like, use a pretty tight-knit group of people and is like, nope, I need them. In fact, he went so far as to saying that Kawai, like, Kenji Kawai's music is responsible for 50% of my film's success, and I can't do anything without him.
Huh. That's an interesting take. I could see why he would think that. It definitely is very iconic. Like, that was one of the things that I had, like, known going into these movies was, like, what the soundtrack sounded like, just based off, like, just the pop culture.
Yeah.
Perspective on it.
And then what's interesting is, obviously, when we were watching the Patlabor second movie, we saw Satoshi Kon's name, and they worked together quite a few times. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then he did indeed write the screenplay for Jinro the Wolf Brigade, which is the animated one. And then apparently did some quite a bit of work for Blood the Last Vampire, which is another anime film. And Blood Plus, which is, I think, the series that came after or before. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I've heard of the Blood Plus title. I've seen it, like, around.
Yeah, and I believe the movie, I think it came out beforehand? I'm not quite sure. But, yeah, he's a pretty interesting dude. I think it's really nice to see, like... I just like seeing more philosophical takes in anime, because I feel like most of the things I watch are pretty normal, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I like manga a lot more. You're more likely to stumble across those, like, seinen titles that have some great writing behind it, like Monster, that show that we were talking about last night with Pierre briefly, by Naoki Urasawa. He's like a huge mangaka, and like little to none, I'm pretty sure none of his manga have ever been like adapted to anime aside from Monster. Because he does like 20th Century Boys, he does, I think it's called Pluto, which is like basically like a darker interpretation of like this famous Astro Boy arc. Master Keaton, Billy Bat, like he's got like a shit ton of series, and that's just like one mangaka. There's a shit ton of great manga that have a lot of like great philosophy in it. It's just that like that kind of shit doesn't sell and isn't worth warranting an animation studio to adapt most of the time, I guess, in their eyes. I don't know.
Yeah. But Oshii's still kicking it. He's getting pretty old, though.
Yeah.
He'll be 69 this year.
Ooh, the magic number.
The magic number. He'll make his best movie yet.
Do you know if he's got his hands involved in that like new Netflix show that they're doing for Ghost in the Shell at all, or?
I don't think so. So that's a standalone Complex show, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
And standalone Complex was made by what's his name? Kenji Kamiyama. I think he's also doing the new one. Yeah, he's doing it. He's co-directing it at least. So like he was pretty much his apprentice for a bit. So I mean, in the sense that he learned everything from Oshii to the point where he's like, I tried to copy his style like exactly to make standalone complexes as well entwined with that as possible. So
okay.
But I don't think he really has anything to do with the new series besides that.
Yeah. I need to check out Standalone Complex now.
Yeah, I've played the video game.
Oh.
But that's it. But all right. So that's Oshii. Let's talk about some of his movies, though.
Yeah.
Starting with Angel's Egg, actually, this was his first movie.
Yeah, nice.
The first movie we're talking about.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have a nice Patlabor sandwich with Angel's Egg and Ghost in the Shell bread.
Yep. So Angel's Egg is... have you met Franco? I can't remember.
Yeah.
This is like his favorite movie.
Oh, okay.
I really like this movie. This is the third time I've seen it. I saw it once because Franco recommended it to me, and I saw it was on YouTube, and it's very short. It's like 70 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we watched it one time for movie club. You weren't there that day, though, and then we watched it for this, obviously. So, and it's a movie that, like, I have very few problems with, but those problems I'm just like, oh, it's so close. It's so close to being, like, perfect for me.
Mm.
So we take it. The movie takes place in post-apocalyptic city. The main character is this unnamed little girl, and she's just kind of... Most of the movie takes place, she's walking around this abandoned city, and she has this large egg, and she like keeps it under her dress and walks around with it. And a lot of it is just like these harsh realities of her just like scavenging this decrepit city for like, she needs water and food, and she has a bunch of bottles. Like, we see her place and she just has like hundreds of bottles.
Mm-hmm.
In the prologue, it shows this like unnamed guy. He's in military garb, and he has he's looking at this big orb-shaped vessel, which just has like thousands of like sculptures of goddesses, like obviously to look like goddesses or something similar. And that's just like coming down from the sky. And the orb's like whistling, making noise, and the girl wakes up and starts her scavenging.
Yeah.
And eventually they... Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, she just kind of, like, wanders around, very atmospheric, just kind of getting a sense of the world. All the, like, beautiful landscapes that they kind of show in this, like, city.
Yeah.
And, yeah, eventually, like, these weird H.R. Geiger fucking, like, biomechanical tanks show up, and the boy hops off
insect
one.
Tanks, pretty much.
Yeah. And, he basically just kind of, like, starts following her around. And she doesn't trust him at first, because she's like, you know, don't break my fucking egg, you know. he's like,
don't break my fucking egg. And he's like, I don't know, why would I fucking break your egg?
But you realize you're not going to know what's inside it until you break it, right? And then, of course, she's like, fuck you, and runs away. And then he just kind of like slowly follows her for a little bit, but then the fisherman scene happens.
Yes. So we see these enormous shadows of like these giant fish that are swimming across the surfaces of streets and buildings, and these like fisherman figures appear and they like spring to life, and it's just like these shadows that are like lobbing these shadows of harpoons at these bricks and stones, and they're not getting anywhere, but the fish are just swimming around. They're trying to get it, and the shadows swim away. And the girl starts explaining in this little monologue that while the fish are gone, the men persist in hunting. Like the food, the source is gone, but the people are still there hunting, trying.
Yeah.
And then while this is happening, they're in this, I think, cathedral of like stained glass, and they're just like hanging out. I think there's pictures of like the windows have stained glass with like fish on them.
Yeah.
And then eventually they leave. They leave the city and they go to her settlement, which is eventually she stops in this giant structure where there's a carcass or like a fossil, or no, there is a carcass of like a beach leviathan thing, like this huge like whale-like thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an engraving of a tree on a pillar, and the boy talks about a memory of a similar tree which grew to hold a giant egg containing a sleeping bird. And then the girl asks him what the bird dreams of, and the boy asks if the girl, like, why she won't tell him what's inside her egg. But eventually they go up the staircase. There's these bottles of water everywhere, on each step pretty much. And he says something like, is there one for each day? As in she gets something. And you see like hundreds of bottles, as in this thing has happened for a long time.
Yeah. And then she basically...
The boy talks about Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Basically tells this like weird kind of... It's the way it was presented is like different. It took me a second to be like, oh, he's talking about Noah's Ark, because he just kind of
a weirdo.
Yeah, I don't know, just the way he was describing it. I don't know. It wasn't the first thing that came to mind, but obviously when he started talking about like the god and the flooding, it was like, oh, he's talking about like the ark. But yeah, so he describes that, and then the girl decides to show him. She's like, oh, the bird, it's here, come check it out. And then she shows him like this giant fucking angel carcass.
It's like this kind of malformed version of what you would think an angel looks like, and like a giant bird. It's kind of fucking scary looking.
Yeah.
And the girl's like telling the boy that she's going to like hatch the egg. And the boy's like, what the fuck? And then they warm themselves in her settlement. She falls asleep. She's like speaking to the creature inside the egg. She's talking about how their future together is going to be like bright and amazing. Outside, like, there's a bunch of fucking rain. The city, and I think like the city's kind of getting flooded like a bit. Mm-hmm. And then she turns away from the egg in her sleep. Like, she's like drifting off. She's asleep. The boy takes it and fucking just like destroys it. Like, he fucking smashes it. All we see is like him like looking at it, and it goes like silent for a moment, and he just like smashes it, and it cuts to her waking up, and she's like looking for her egg, and she's walking around, and she steps on the shell, and she looks down.
Fucking superhero landing a hole in the fucking ground from where he smashed it.
Yeah. And then it cuts to like the hallway, and it's like super silent for a second, and then she just lets out like a blood curdling scream.
Yeah.
And then she fucking runs out of her house. She's just running into the woods. She runs past a giant tree that holds a huge egg, and she's chasing this boy. And she's like running over a hill because she sees him, but she doesn't notice that there's like a giant fucking ravine right over the hill. And she falls in. And as she like hits the water, she suddenly like transforms into like an adult woman. And she like dissipates into a bunch of fucking eggs. And the eggs like go up to the surface. The rain stops, and then they're just like, there's a landscape shot of just trees for miles and miles filled with like these eggs. And the boy's just kind of standing on this shore littered with fucking white feathers like a bird. And that fucking orb-like vessel comes from underneath the ocean. And these thousands of statues are there, but then there's a new one, this figure of the girl. She's right there. She's sitting on a throne and caressing the egg on her lap. And then the screen slowly zooms out, and it shows, like, the beach, and then it zooms out into the forest, the city, and it just shows it's all part of this small island in a vast sea that just looks like a overturned ship. And that's the end of the movie. So, like, there's a lot of themes in this movie. As you can tell, it's more of like, this is a movie Pierre would hate, because not a lot happens. A lot of it is just kind of sitting in like this emptiness, feeling these emotions that Mamoru Oshii is trying to like convey, which is interesting because it feels at times he doesn't really know what he wants to convey, to the point where like there have been times in the past few years where he's like, I don't know what that movie's about. But a lot of it, this is like right around the time, right before he made this movie, he lost all of his faith in Christianity. Like, he was a pretty big Christian for a lot of time until like right before this movie came out. And this movie's pretty much about like loss of like faith.
I could see that. Huh. Yeah.
Like the whole idea of, to me at least, it feels like the two characters are one and the same, that like the girl represents like his naivety and like wanting to believe in something, and the boy represents like, I need to know what it is, like I need to dissect it to know what it is. I'm not going to just have faith in it. And also that he's like scared of the faith. He's like, this is dangerous to keep going. To the point where he destroys his faith.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense. The first time I watched this movie, I was a bit lost.
I'm at a point where I definitely can like pick up on some of the themes that are in the movie. And I've got some ideas and some like interpretations about some things, but I know it's like, this would be a movie I would need to see again before I even fucking came close to fully feeling like I understood it.
Yeah. Like, it's a film that I feel like, even though I don't really dislike it or like it any more than I have the first or second time, I feel like I'm gaining a lot from watching it over and over again. Like, obviously I got some of these themes the first time around.
Yeah.
Some of them are more obvious than not. And obviously, if Oshii doesn't even really know what the movie's about, it's all up to interpretation. You can interpret it however you want. That's just simply how I interpret the film.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, no, I need to give that one a lot more thought.
Yeah, that's why like it feels like the most a lot of the other movies that he's made have been very upfront with what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like he has a great grasp on his philosophy, and he's able to articulate that well in most of his films. But this one, it feels like his philosophy is just like purely pouring out of his mouth. It's like just going straight into the movie, so it's a lot harder to process, but it's the most accurate portrayal of his feelings, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
He doesn't filter it for more digestible.
Which, is obviously going to be harder for some people to grasp, but is my preference. Like, I'll say it now, this is my favorite film of his that I have seen.
Okay.
I really like this film. I don't think it's perfect. If I'm going to be honest, my biggest problem with the film is I don't think it should have dialogue.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like the little bits of dialogue really add to this.
I agree, sort of. Like, it's just that it feels... I think that it works because of the small amount of dialogue, but I think the movie itself, what it's trying to do, it wishes it had no dialogue, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like, the movie itself wants to have no dialogue. So although the dialogue that's in the movie helps to portray these things, it also feels, I think, a little less genuine than the rest of the movie, because it feels a little forced.
I see what you mean.
See, this is the exact same thing, because I'm having trouble articulating my thoughts on this movie because it's so good.
It's abstract and hard to fucking pin down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was wondering, I was like, when we were going to start recording this movie, I'm like, we're either going to talk about this movie for like 10 minutes or like an hour. I couldn't figure it out because, like I said, not a lot happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you can sum it up in like four sentences. A girl has an egg. The city is destroyed. A boy questions her beliefs and his own beliefs and destroys the egg. She transforms into eggs.
Yeah.
But that's kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
But this, I really like, I feel like as I have watched this more, the tone and the theme gets a lot darker for me each time. Like, the first time around, I was thinking of the boy as, like, the antagonist of the film. And, in her case, in her view, he is. Like, obviously, he's the one that destroyed her faith. But as an atheist, I'm always kind of scared of unbridled faith in things.
Yeah.
And this idea that he needs to question this faith, because all we see is this destroyed city and these like fucking scary looking angel birds. So I'm like, whoa. And this landscape full of these eggs. And I think that destroying your faith, or at least dissecting it, like trying to destroy it, looking inside, is a good thing. Like, even if it's really hard to do. So I think by now, at this point, I think of him as, I guess, the hero. He's trying to fix this situation. But then at the same time, the final scene in which she falls into the water and kind of dissipates into this vast sea of eggs, it just goes to show, from my point of view, that organized religion will take the sacrifice of one person, or like the death of one person, and glorify it to like push their means. Like, she's dead, and then all of a sudden there's a statue of her. She's being glorified, and her death has now been used to fuel these eggs, I guess, is what I'm saying, if that makes any sense.
Pose her as a martyr.
I feel like I'm just fucking spewing nonsense.
No, for sure. Like, that's definitely part of like the whole theme of religion, whether you're looking at a Jesus Christ or a Joan of Arc, there's always going to be those like people who will die for their religion, and they'll be glorified by those.
And they'll be glorified by it, yeah.
Meanwhile, people who don't follow the religion kind of have a different point of view and perspective on it that looks a lot uglier, and it's just, yeesh. But, yeah.
And there's also the idea that this boy is like moving, he's exploring, he's trying to do stuff, while this girl is static. She's not doing anything. She does the exact same thing every day. She scavenges for food, she gets water, and all she lives for is her faith. All she lives for is this egg. So by him breaking the egg, he's trying to break this tradition of monotony for her. Obviously, I'm fine with people just being like, no, he's a dick, he destroyed her egg, but to me, it feels like he's trying to break her from this pattern, this, like, toxic pattern where all she's living for is, like, her faith.
He's trying to break her shell.
She's not trying to... And obviously, she's a little girl.
Yeah.
But...
He's trying to...
He's also a little boy. He's probably... I'm guessing, if I were to guess their ages, I would guess she's, like, 11 and he's, like, 15.
Yeah, maybe. He looks like
I don't know,
he could be...
It's hard to check with anime, because she could be anywhere from 8 to, like, 17, knowing anime.
She could be anywhere
and he could be anywhere from 12 to 27.
Yeah. Because the thing that has me like, ooh, he's probably not, like, 15, he's probably at least got to be at least 18, is the fact that he appears to be in some sort of militaristic force. Now...
Yeah, but at the same time, this is in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Yeah. And I mean, even looking at, like, Mobile Suit Gundam, Amuro's, like, 15.
Yeah, fair.
Technically, he's not really a soldier for most of the show.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm a civilian!
I'm the only one who knows how to do this, though,
So, fuck. Yeah, I mean, this movie does kind of fill me with a bit of dread, because I had the same... I've never been, like, deeply spiritual, but when I was growing up, I always had this fear that I was going to hell, even though I never really went to church, but there was always this fear in me that I was, like, going to hell, or, after that, it was the fear that there was nothing after this. Like... I was really afraid of the fact that I would die one day and I wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, that would just be it for my existence. And there are very small moments in my life now that flares up, but most of the time I'm just like, I'll be dead. I don't care.
Yeah.
I won't be around to care, so why should I care now?
I've never had, like, a super deep fear of, like, death itself. It's just the process of dying that always kind of frightened me. Like the fear of, like, dying a violent or painful death, or just being conscious while you're, like, slipping out or something, you know? Where it's like, oh, shit, it's about to happen.
Which is funny, because, like, even as a kid, I was never really afraid of, like, violent deaths or brutal deaths. Nothing like that. It was always just the fear of missing out. I talk about that in my Ring review, if you read that. Like, this fear that, like, I'll miss something important that I would have loved. Yeah. It's always that, like... Or I'll be forgotten. That's a big thing.
It's like...
And a lot of that is in this movie, too.
Yeah. I've heard death, like, compared to, like, a party before. Like, life's the party, and death is when you have to leave earlier than everyone else.
Wow, this is the party. This party sucks.
Yeah. It's kind of a shitty party. It's like a high school party.
It is like a high school party. Life is just a high school party.
High school never ends. Wisdom from bowling for soup.
But like I said, my big issue with the movie is I just think that the dialogue, I think, doesn't necessarily need to be there, but it feels like they're so close to achieving these ideas without the dialogue that it just feels a little sad that they needed to insert the dialogue, if that makes sense. And I think the movie, there are just a few scenes that run a bit too long for me.
I could see that. For sure. I'd probably agree with that sentiment. And I'm someone who enjoys ambient scenes, but
I usually do too. I think not necessarily that some scenes run too long. I think I just would have preferred a few scenes to run longer and some of the other scenes to be cut a little. Like, I think the ambiance should have been inserted in other scenes, I guess.
Okay.
It's a weird one. But do you have other thoughts on the movie?
Not really. Not any cohesive ones. I've only seen this once, and it was yesterday, and I immediately had to, like, pack a shit ton of Patlabor and fucking Ghost in the Shell on top of it, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to actually process Angel's Egg and digest it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even wrap my feelings on the film around, and this is the third time I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I watched it a few days ago, so I've had a couple days to process this watch. But what would you give the film?
I'd probably give it like an 8 currently.
Yeah, no, I've given it a 9 each time. I think I'm pretty solid on a 9. I pretty much feel the same amount of things for the film each time. I think it's really, really great. I just think it just doesn't quite hit that mark for me, I think.
Yeah.
But I can definitely recommend it. I recommend it to a lot of people, just not Pierre. All right. So, without further ado, let's talk about Patlabor, the early days, or Mobile Police Patlabor, the original series, or the OVAs. This is the original 7 30-minute episodes of Patlabor that were produced before the movie. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. Okay. It'll take me like 2 minutes. If you want to start talking about it, you can. If not, we'll just continue when I get back.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it. All right. So let me see here. Yeah. So Patlabor. I'm just gonna dive right into the first episode. Basically, it's the first day that this division is going to be together. They're called like the SV2. And they're kind of like a ragtag team of like, rejects, they don't exactly fit in. You've got Noah, who is this girl who's like a machine moron, as they call themselves in the show. Like, she just is an absolute fucking motorhead. Like, she just loves cracking apart these labors and seeing how they work, and just loves messing with them, loves working with them. They're like her passion. There's Asuma, who his dad is like the fucking top of the fucking king of the hill. He's very tippy top of this organization, but he's been kind of forced into serving with this mobile police unit. There's Ota, who is a fucking psychopath who loves guns.
Yeah, he's a fucking psychopath.
Shinji, who is, basically just a husband. Yeah, he's a simp. No, yeah. Not really. He really doesn't do much for his wife. He's kind of the opposite of a simp, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And then
Hiromi, who's a nice man who's like huge. He's like Chad, this really tall guy. He's Chad from Bleach. That's what I said to Pierre when we were watching the series. He's not that. He's only 6'6".
Oh,
I checked. Almost. It's just like, why can't characters be as tall as me? Come on. And they're all being led by Captain Godo.
Yes.
Who's he's pretty laid back, but he's like really smart.
Yeah.
He's pretty chill.
And he has she's like, I don't know what her position would be. She's like basically kind of like on his league, like same kind of general rank. What is her name? She's one of the main characters. Shinobu.
Yeah, is Shinobu fucking... Was she the, like, leader of SV1? And she just, like, was around a lot?
Yeah, like, I think that she kind of just got adopted into the group around, like, episode 2, was it? When she basically just... it kind of became clear that this group of misfits wasn't exactly working out to the best... to be the best option that they could have chosen. So, yeah. Because she starts off extremely kind of catty and jealous because she felt like her group was more qualified to take their position. And it seems that was kind of right. But this group gets by, you know. They go through it, you know. There's still... I mean, obviously a whole series and a couple movies that come out after, so they do all right.
They do all right. That would be accurate. They do all right.
But yeah, basically, so they show up here. They're just kind of getting used to each other. Fucking Ota's upset because Goto won't let him practice with a gun. Asuma's kind of a dick. He's kind of like, just, I'm better than all of you. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm just being forced here.
Yeah, it takes him quite a bit to really get in with the group. Like, he's just like, I don't want to be here.
Clint, the American girl, Kanuka, she doesn't come in till like the second episode. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so basically their labors are stuck in traffic. So they're like just basically doing some busy work. They're like cutting grass and shit. And then basically just a terrorist labor is out on the run from the cops, and they're put into a situation where they have to like go and retrieve their labors from this busy traffic pileup and stop this terrorist. And that's essentially the first episode. Some wacky
they fuck
antics
up a lot.
Yeah, like they lose an arm and a head to their labors, and luckily the like dude who's Sakaki, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Sakake maybe, he's like the dude kind of running the property that they're on, and he's like a major motorhead. He loves like
the machine moron.
Yes, so he's just like
I've loved machines since I was 5 years old.
So he doesn't exactly act ecstatic. You can tell he's trying to hold back, but he's kind of excited to fix their broken labors. It's like, yes, I've been waiting to get in here and do some shit on these. But yeah, it's basically the first episode. I'm just kind of getting you familiar with the premise of the show and some of the characters.
Noah hits the criminal with her own like robot's hand.
Yeah.
She like grabs the arm that fell off and like throws it at the criminal.
Because basically this little labor fucking just takes out both Noah and it was Oda and the other labor, right? Yeah. And then basically like it kind of goes over to this area where it's going to like take out this important building. And then they're like, all right, nobody make a move, you know, just kind of wait and we'll figure out this situation. And then she just comes fucking running up with her like just removed arm and just fucking whaps him with it and takes him out. And it's just like, it's a funny little scene. I really like the first couple episodes quite a bit. I feel like in terms of this series, that's where I got the most enjoyment out of it, especially the second episode when they like did the well, I guess we'll get to that. Let's get into the
interesting. I think I don't know. I enjoyed quite the tonal shift of the last few episodes. I do think that I like the episodes less than the first few, but I like them more, and I like the tonal shifts. I like tonal shifts and things. It reminded me a lot of Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, like the tonal shift in that. Fun fact, the director of that OVA series, Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, he did the third Patlabor movie.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I guess I'll just kind of get my overall thoughts on just the series out of the way. I'll hold my thoughts on the movies until we get to those. overall, really enjoyed it. Like, I think this is a pretty good series. I got a lot of enjoyability out of it. I think my big overall problem with the series, and the thing that I feel like holds it back from me enjoying it a lot more than I could have, it feels a little tonal whiplash. Because I'm okay with them, like, wanting to start off lighthearted and goofy and episodic and building into, like, a heavier plot. And I totally thought that's what they were doing. Because once you get to episode 5 and 6, it's like a two-parter. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be like the final 3 episodes are like this final serious arc that they built up to.
But that 7th episode goes back to being somewhat jovial.
Yes, and it was just like, it caught me a little off guard and left me feeling like the series would have been a little better if maybe they had just kind of swapped the final 2 episodes in that last one.
It's like, I get what you're saying, and I think I agree, but I also get kind of where they were coming from, if this is where they're coming from, if I'm right about this. But it feels like what they wanted to do is to go, like, this huge tonal shift to go, like, hey, there are these real dangerous, actual, like, situations, but then afterwards, everything goes back to normal until something big arises again. Like, it's showing, I think that doing that kind of makes it feel more natural in, like, realistic setting. Like, things would eventually feel more regular again. But I think the big problem with trying to do that is that episode 6 ends so abruptly. Yeah. Like, I think maybe if there was like a minute or two to kind of digest the situation before going back to that, like, somewhat jovial nature.
Yeah,
but
I was like, what's going to happen next?
Like, the beginning of the first movie is like dark or has that dark tone from the very beginning kind of thing. So yeah. I would probably agree that episode 5 and 6 should have been the final episodes, but I understand where they were coming from, I think. I just think that, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking, but I do agree that I think that the tonal whiplash, I don't even, it's only between episodes 6 and 7. The harsh tonal shift between 4 and 5, I think, is great. I like those harsh tonal shifts.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, like, because I plan on watching, like, the full series now.
Yeah, me too.
Well, probably once I watch the 3rd one, then I'll go and I'll do that. But I'm hoping that they handle, like, that a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, I think there's also always that thing where if you make an OVA series, you gotta pack on all this stuff you want to put in like 7 episodes instead of like 40 or whatever they did.
Yeah. But yeah. So, Long Shot, which is the 2nd episode. Basically, the mayor of New York is coming to Tokyo. He's, like, doing some work on some sort of, like, project that'll... it's like... what is it? It's like a fucking landfill kind of thing. And there's basically just a bunch of environmentalists who are leaning on the extreme side begin causing a ruckus, and basically, like, a league of terrorist organizations has formed. What do they call that? I feel like they gave it a name. They might not have.
Every villain is lemons.
Lemons?
Yep.
Okay.
Not really. I don't remember the name. I was just quoting SpongeBob.
I'm going to call them lemons. So basically,
okay, cool.
Yeah, they're just trying to make sure that nothing happens to the mayor of New York. And basically, one day, while, like, at one of their locations where they're, like, setting up, Asuma, that's his name, right?
Asuma, Yugi.
Yeah.
The voice of Dan Green, Yugi Moto.
Basically, Asuma runs into, like, the main fucking head of this terrorist organization, but doesn't recognize him. or doesn't recognize them because he was too ignorant to look at like wanted posters that were given to him.
Yeah,
to
it's
prep
this
the
little
assignment.
old lady who turns out to be this like master bomb maker.
Yeah. So basically, they're like, "Oh fuck, where's this person gonna strike from?" And then Asuma remembers seeing that like police vehicle trailer kind of thing there, and he brings it up. He's like, "Hey, what's that thing doing there?" And they're like, "What?"
They're like, "We don't have any police trailers."
And he's like, "Oh shit, that's it. I gotta go." So him and Noah are basically just trying to get there as fast as they can, which leads to probably my favorite thing from this entire franchise.
The blimp one?
Yes. Oh my god, I loved this scene. Because basically Noah had a dream that starts the episode where she imagined like this new labor that could like fly, but in her dream it like fell over, and she explains that to Asuma. He's like, "Here, we're gonna make it happen now." And she's like, he basically like radios into this blimp and he's like, "Look, we're gonna try something very risky here." And the dude flying the blimp's like, "I've always wanted to fucking try this. I don't care if I lose my license." So basically they just like have her grab onto this blimp and push off the ground so she can like hop this bridge that she otherwise wouldn't be able to get past. And it's this quick little sequence, but it made the fucking episode for me. I was just like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I also just like this idea that these labors, these robots are like really new and they're kind of shitty. Like they can't just like crawl under a fucking bridge or anything.
Yeah.
Like I like this more realistic portrayal of like if you make these giant robots, the first few are gonna be like shitty.
Yeah, I always loved the concept of like the in between, like the modern era and like what people perceive as like the future. Like I always consider like us as living in the in between of like before like the kind of like Futurama Jetsons type future.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming we ever fucking make it that far, but if we do, this would be like that in between period where we're starting to advance with technology very slowly. We're at like the very beginning of that kind of futuristic setting.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing in the Gundam Origin films, seeing like how the mobile suits are being made and stuff. That was like my favorite part of those films. Like I loved that part.
Oh yeah.
I love seeing like kind of the shittier versions of things.
Yeah, no, it really it just adds a lot more because you don't want to see. I mean, you kind of do, but like I feel like narratively, and when you're like making an entertaining story, if you have something that has a lot more like bugs and problems, it's a lot more interesting to watch as opposed to like this all powerful super robot that can do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically that episode. They stop it. They stop it.
We're also, this is the introduction of Kanuka.
Yeah.
Who is this?
American girl.
She's from Hawaii.
Yes.
But she's this American woman who's like, joins the force, and she's pretty funny, in this episode specifically, because Asuma's, is it Asuma? Asuma's, trying to disarm this bomb. And he's like, "Okay, do I cut the red wire or the blue wire?" And she's like, "Well, what's your favorite color? Or what color do you like less?" And he's like, "Oh, blue." And he's like, "Well, cut that one." He's like, "What?" She's like, "Only the bomb maker knows that one." And he's like, "I can't do it." And she just comes in and like snips the cord. And they're good.
She's like, "You did it. Congrats."
What if the television series took place like alongside that and it alternates after this episode where they just actually just die right here because they clipped the wrong cord?
That would be pretty funny. I don't know if I'd be a big fan of that, being a fan of this series and liking the characters. I'd be like, oh wow, that was a lot of like missed potential that they could have worked with these characters for, but that was pretty funny.
Yeah, but I do really like Long Shot. It's probably my second favorite episode. And it has to do a lot with the blimp scene.
Yeah.
That scene was fantastic. So the third scene, the third episode, is my favorite because it's the weirdest.
It's the Godzilla episode.
It's so a bunch of things keep happening in Tokyo Bay. So like undersea cables are being damaged, cars are being pulled off the pier, and people are like, "What the fuck's going on? Like, is there a sea monster?" And one of the heads of like the police department is like asks Godo for help, and they like at one point 2 people pilot a remote control labor to like search for the incidents and the causes, and it's destroyed, and they're like convinced that this monster exists, and they eventually track down this scientist who's been like making life.
Yeah.
He's been like experimenting, and he like made this life form, and it like escaped, and he's like, it's evolving so fast. But eventually they do like find it coming out, and it's this giant sea monster, and it has the exact same face as Hiromi.
Yeah.
And it like looks at Hiromi, and Hiromi stares back at it, and it kind of like does a tiny little smile and then just walks back into the ocean. And there's a narration by who's narrating this?
Oh,
Is it Asuma? I think it's Asuma that's narrating. And he's like, and it walked back into the ocean as the sun was setting, never to be seen again. And it's just such a weird episode. I think it's really well done. But I also, I like that it's like an homage to like kaiju films, but I also just like the like bizarreness of the episode.
Have you seen the original Godzilla? Like the 1954 one?
I think I saw it as a child. I don't remember it at all. Is that what happens? Does it walk back into the ocean like that?
No. But a lot of this movie takes a lot of inspiration from it, because in the original Godzilla, basically this mad scientist creates this device, and the mad scientist has one eye in Godzilla. He's wearing an eye patch, just like the mad scientist in this one.
Okay.
And he creates this oxygen destroyer, which is what fucking Oda was doing with like the dry ice throughout the episode. It was Oda who was doing that, right? Sometimes I get Oda and that one character mixed up. The Shiba or whatever his name is.
Is that the...
It's like the dude with glasses who is in the first episode, who's like complaining to the...
Oh, yeah, I think that is Shiba. No, I think it is Oda here.
Okay. Well, he makes like the oxygen destroyer, which is like the thing that the scientist makes in Godzilla. And he faces this whole dilemma in that movie because he's like, this could destroy this monster, but I don't want this getting into the wrong hands because this is like obviously some world-changing shit and people would want it. So basically he's like, I gotta like make sure that like the secret goes, you know, with the machine and they can never like fucking build this thing again. But yeah, that's the oxygen destroyer, and the whole like just kaiju in general and the eye patch thing were all like homages to Godzilla.
Interesting. No, I still need to watch the Godzilla.
It's good.
I'll get around to it. I've heard it's really good. I'll probably like it. I like old kaiju films quite a bit.
Yeah, I hope so. It's totally different from a lot of the other Godzilla movies. It takes itself a lot more seriously.
Interesting.
Because it was more of a metaphor for, like, the atomic bomb before it became, like, a goofy defender of children, Godzilla.
before Manila came up.
Yeah, exactly. Minya.
But yeah, I also like this ending monologue where it was just like, and it ended. It wasn't satisfying, but he just like left, and it's. I just like that it's like this weird subversion where like just kind of nothing happens. Just like it's the sea monster with the exact same face as Hiromi, and it's just like leaves peacefully and goes back to its home, pretty much.
Yes.
And then episode 4 is also, I'm also a big fan of episode 4. Mm-hmm. I think it's very silly.
This is probably my least favorite episode.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so episode 4 starts off with a hostage situation. And, this hostage situation isn't going well, and Oda, of course, is this, like, psychopath. And he fucking breaks down the wall and points his gun at this hostage and these two people behind us. And we should mention that these guns that these Patlabors have are like, they're like regular handguns, but just like 20 times bigger.
Yeah. Scaled the size.
So this barrel's as big as a person. And he fires and it cuts and it's like, what the fuck? I'm like, did they kill him? But it turns out that first round was like a blank. It wasn't a real bullet. Just in case Oda decided to be a fucking idiot. But because of this, they all get, like, suspended and sent back to the training camp they went to. So they all go to this camp, and nobody else is there because it's, like, summer or something, so everybody else is back. Or no, it's winter, because the next episode, I think, is New Year's. And nobody's there, but they're being haunted by this ghost. That's like, don't shoot, and it turns out that there's a story of what happened recently where a gun like went off accidentally, killing this guy's sister that he was piloting his labor, and it like malfunctioned, and he dropped the gun and it killed his sister, and he like walked into the swamp and was never seen again.
Yeah.
And there's like a ghost labor that shows up with a skeleton inside it.
Mm-hmm. And then coincidentally, Asuma, while him and Noah are skipping one day, they come across like an old friend of Asuma's who like runs this little store, and there he finds a girl who looks exactly like the ghost. But yeah,
so they're like, oh, it must be her sister, and she's like that. They're trying to figure this out. But one thing I like about Patlabor is a lot of the characters are pretty dumb.
Yeah.
But they're trying to figure this out, and they eventually figure out that they think that this girl is the dead girl's sister, and she's using these things to like trick them and make sure they never hurt anyone again. But then, so obviously they sent here because Oda's a psychopath.
But then Kanuka comes in with facts and logic and fucking...
She's like, I'm time to destroy the liberals with my facts and logic.
Oh, yeah.
And she does.
Yeah, she's basically like... just straight up, like, just kind of lists all their, like, sort of errors that they made in their calculations and why they came to certain conclusions, and be like, yeah, you guys were kind of just going down the path that was fixed for you. Meanwhile, I went and I actually got a confession out of the girl from the store. She's actually Goto's fucking niece or whatever it is. And he just stands up and he's like, alright, you got me. Sorry.
And then they just start throwing things at him.
Because initially, she, like, kind of is like, yeah, I figured it all out. And he's like, well, you don't have any evidence. And then the girl comes in and confesses, and he's like, all right, you got me. And I like the ending to this episode, but yeah, I thought the overall episode was kind of meh for me. Didn't really hit my buttons.
I think I liked just a lot of, like, the expressions people had when they saw, like, the ghosts and stuff. A lot of them I just thought was really funny, especially the ending monologue reminded me a lot of, like, a Scooby-Doo episode. I think the episode as a whole just kind of reminded me of a Scooby-Doo episode, and that's probably why I liked it.
Yeah, fair. All right. Now time for what arguably should have been the climax to this little OVA.
Yep.
The SV2's Longest Day, parts 1 and 2, because I don't think we're going to take the time to split them into their 2 different parts.
Yeah, probably not. I don't even remember where it ends, episode 1 ends.
Basically with, like, Asuma seeing that Kai guy on TV and being like, I saw him in the ramen shop. What?
That's right.
Yeah, so basically the second unit are on vacation. And yeah, basically, like, most of them have places to go, except for Godo and Asuma. Godo just kind of hangs around the office with Shinobu, and Asuma kind of goes all over the place. He's like, I can't go home. Where am I supposed to go? So he kind of goes, to different, like, buildings. Like, he visits, like, a factory where, his dad works. But his dad's not there. So he's like, okay. So then he goes to a couple different places. He tries to go stay with the dude with a wife, whatever his name is. Shinji.
Shinji from Evangelion.
Shinji.
No, I know, I was joking.
Yeah, he tries to stay with Shinji, but his wife's not having any of it, so he leaves, and then he goes to Kanuki's, where I like this little scene because he, like, gives her a flower and he, like, just kind of, like, abruptly puts it in her face, and then she, like, just points a gun at his face, and she's like, oh, you might not want to do shit like that. He's just kind of like, ah, but she takes the flower from him, and then they're kind of hanging out, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go stay with my grandmother. So then he decides, he's like, oh, well, I guess I'll see if I can never remember her name. Noah wants to hang out. So, yeah, the two of them just kind of chill, and then he just kind of gets drunk at her house and tells her what to do. Great guy.
Yeah, great guy.
But before he meets up with her, he had agreed to, like, meet up with her at this ramen shop where he sees, like, this dude who seems like he's from Tokyo come in, and he basically just downs a ramen the alpha male style, and then really shows Asuma what a beta he is at drinking ramen, I guess. I don't know. I don't get what the point of this scene was. He's just, like, very intimidated by the way this guy, like, drinks his ramen down in a second.
Well, I want to say that he got, like, a spicy bowl, and then he put extra spice in it, and then he just downed it.
No, I might have missed that.
And he was just like, what the fuck?
But yeah,
I'm not sure, but I think that's what happened. Obviously, I watched Patlabor like 2 days ago, and then I watched the movie, so everything kind of melds together.
Yeah,
which I'm glad. I like that for, like, something that feels so.
I watched it all yesterday.
Close together, but so.
But yeah, so basically, yeah. So this group called the JGSDF, basically, like, invades Tokyo and kind of quickly starts to take it over. And yeah, that's kind of where that episode ends. Like, they see it on TV and they're like, what the fuck? And then begins the second part of it, where, yeah, basically Godo had kind of seen this coming. That's why he hung around the office with Shinobu. And yeah, so let's see. They kind of, like, planned ahead of this. They kind of saw it coming, so they sent out their laborers on a boat that night. So when they got, like, invaded the next day by this group who were like, we're going to take your laborers, they're like, no, you're not. So basically they moved the laborers over in front of, like, the Capitol building, and they're like, you're not You're not taking this place. Get the fuck out. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Basically, the head of this organization that's taking over is this guy who's named Kyoteru Kai. And he turns out to be someone that Goto knew very well in college. But this man basically announces, he's like, yeah, I've got like a nuclear missile. Don't fuck with me. And they're out like on a boat in the middle of the ocean, so yeah, they're basically just trying to get this guy. Kind of everyone sees this on the news and they're like, oh shit, we gotta go help them and get this taken care of. So the SV2 gets together again, and yeah, they basically just kind of go and invade this boat and stop it. Shinobu kind of stands up to her superiors, because they're basically like, oh, Goto is probably involved in this, so if you're working with him, we're gonna have to like arrest you. And she's basically like, the fuck you are, I'm gonna fix this situation, fuck you.
Yeah, and she fucking punches somebody in the face.
Yeah.
Knocks him out.
Because they're like, quick,
arrest her.
And she's like, yeah, fucking right. And just like one hits him and he's just on the fucking floor. But yeah, so let's see. Kanuka and Shinshi, they take and they like have a stolen police labor from the academy. And yeah, they're kind of like dealing with a blockade. And then Asuma and Noah, they show up. And yeah, they basically plan to go onto the ship and stop this guy from launching his missile last minute. Which they do.
They do indeed.
It's all very last second. The episode's a lot of like build up just kind of to them getting to this point, and then the episode ends with the bad guy basically being caught and being like, oh, you got me. At least he has like a comment where he's like, I'll see something about tomorrow. I don't quite remember what it was. Kind of, I'm getting it mixed up with the bad guy from the second one, with his comment towards the end where he's like, I'm excited for the future of the city.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't remember exactly what the final words of this episode are, but yeah, they catch the guy and they stop it all from going down.
Like...
And yeah, Goto and fucking Shinobu, and I'm sad because it's like I want to see how they like kind of untangle themselves from the situation they got in, but then the next episode is just like a refresh, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool. So basically, episode 7, there's like a truck is stolen that has a labor in it. And the driver of the truck finds out like there's a guy in it, and he's like, we gotta get to the harbor, and we gotta get to my people, and it's just kind of chasing after this guy. And basically by the end of it, the trucker ends up taking over the labor and helping SV2 take out like this terrorist group, and all is well that ends well. He goes home and he's got like a little family. And he's like, ooh, I'm here. I've got my family. Rah! And they basically decide to let him go since he helped save the day, even though he stole a truck. And caused a lot of mayhem. But
I mean, I like this episode. I think it's a pretty good episode. I just think
it's
that
fine.
It just kind of ends strangely for the series.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I just looked it up, and it looks like it came out like a decent amount after the other episodes. Like the other episodes, they would do like one a month or like one every 2 months.
Looks like there's about a 6-month gap.
And then, so I'm not sure if like this was an episode that was just never made or something, or it was like a special or something to gain hype for the movie? Because I think the movie came out pretty close after that.
Well, let's see. I know the series came out like a few months after that final episode did, because the final episode aired June 25th, 1989, and the series began October 11th, 1989. The movie...
But the movie came out like less than a month after this episode.
Okay. So yeah, it was probably that. Maybe they did like an episode like that never aired, or perhaps it was exactly what you just said, where they were doing it in promotion for the movie.
Yeah, but it's still a good episode, and overall, I did really like the series. I don't think it was like amazing, but I had a really solid time with it. I do really want to watch the whole show now.
Oh, same here.
But yeah, I mean, overall, like for the series, I gave it like a 7. I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that score.
I don't think that like changing the order, like making the climax more like darker in tone would like really like change the score. It just changed it from like a 7, like a 7 to maybe a higher 7.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. But yeah, then there was the movie.
The movie, yeah. So this goes right back into that darker tone of episode 5 and 6.
It still manages to keep a bit of its jovial nature. Like, this movie was a lot more upbeat compared to the following movie.
That's true.
But it definitely is on tone with, like, episode 5 and 6 of the anime, where it's taking itself a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically...
So, the beginning of the movie talks about how, like, these laborers are going, like, crazy. Like, they're pretty much going berserk.
Yeah.
And it shows because, what is it, they're destroying suburbs and man-made islands are being constructed in Tokyo Bay to, like, help redevelop and change things. And there's this giant man-made island that I just kept calling Trash Island, but it's called the Ark.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much the center of this project, and it's where all these, like, laborers are coming from, and, but meanwhile, these laborers are going, like, crazy, and they're, like, attacking people and destroying things. So the police department, the special vehicles section, as in SV2, the people we've been following, they're assigned to pretty much reel in the laborers.
Yeah, and it's here where both Goto and Asuma are believing that there might be some correlation with all of these.
Yeah, because some people are just like, no, some of them are just going haywire.
And they're like, no, they can't be. Like, this just started happening recently. What corresponds with this? And they kind of look, and there's this new, like, OS that's being installed, like, across, like, the whole platform called Haas. And it's basically just a giant fucking virus that causes these things.
Like, it's this company being made, it's Shinohara Heavy Industries. It's supposed to be, like, this really good operating system, and theoretically it is, but they find that something in it is causing these laborers to go fucking berserk.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're basically just kind of exploring that. They basically, like, work for a long time, Asuma specifically, to, like, kind of crack this case and get people to, like, acknowledge it and fix it, hopefully. And it gets to the point where about halfway through the movie, it seems like, oh, okay, story's over. You know, they've acknowledged him. They're going to be removing Haas from everything, it's all's taken care of. And he talks to Godo, and he's like, oh man, this is kind of lame. This isn't how I expected things to wrap up. And he's like, you actually think this is over? Ha! Yeah, right. And basically explains, he's like, look, there's some shit still going on. Like, there's no way. I don't remember exactly his line of logic there. A lot of deep Patlabor world politics that I don't have on hand right now. But
this is they're also learning about this guy named Ehoba, which was the pretty much the head programmer of Haas, or one of the head programmers, and he was the guy they like know for a fact he was the guy that put the virus in it. Ehoba, he was known as like Jehovah a lot. It kind of sounded that name.
And the Ark is obviously named after
the Ark,
Noah's Ark. Yeah.
But he has this virus, and at the beginning of the movie, we see him literally just commit suicide while smiling.
Yes.
But they're like, he was so sure of his plan, he wants to, like, have these laborers go crazy and, like, destroy everything, that he killed himself. He didn't even wait to see what would happen. And they figure out that these things are being, triggered by these low frequency resonance, like through wind, and there's a typhoon coming. Yeah. So, in like 2 days, pretty much the city's gonna be destroyed. And Godo, like, gets clearance from, like, leadership to destroy the Ark. And they're just like, yeah, if it doesn't work, we'll just say it was the typhoon that destroyed it. And meanwhile, Shige's still trying to, like, dig up more evidence and stuff.
Yeah.
And Kanuka, who had left, or it was implied she left at the end of the series, she shows up, like, near the end. She's like, I'm here to help.
Yep. And yeah, basically.
The funniest line, I said this when we were watching this, but she arrives and the person's like, so what are you here for? Business? Pleasure? And she's like, Combat.
Yes. As she's bored, because it's like a fucking just airplane, like a airport.
Yeah, you can't just say you're about to fight people in an airport, man.
Yeah, she's like purchasing her tickets. Oh, you visiting family? Business? Business or personal? Neither. Combat. And it's just like, oh my God. I feel like that would fall under business. But yeah, so basically, let's see. They're on the Ark, and Asuma and Shinji break into the control room, and they're about to, like, hit the self-destruct sequence, but they notice that in one of the rooms there's some, like, life activity. They notice, like, there's a movement, like a blip, and they're like, oh shit, there's someone in there.
And they look at the code, and it's like, that's Jehovah's code, Ehoba's code. Yeah. And they're like, he's up there. So Noah goes up there with her fucking labor. Meanwhile, Kanuka grabs a Type 0 labor to help fight these fucking robot things, these robot guards.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just let Oda do it, because Oda's gonna fuck something up.
Yeah. And yeah, basically what's revealed.
Kanuka's like, I can do it if it shouldn't have gotten the program in, and I already took out the motherboard. So, like, she's like, don't worry, it won't go crazy.
But it does. And yeah, so she then attacks Oda's machine. His labor kind of leaves him there, and while Noah, or not, is it Noah? I always forget her name. Noah, yeah.
Noah.
I was like, Noah's Ark. That's not right. That couldn't be right. But yeah, Noah. Yeah, she basically is kind of like left. She's like outside, and she notices that Kanuka is like lost control, and she's kind of like left to kind of battle it, but Kanuka's labor is like much better at hand-to-hand combat than her labor is, so she's just basically like taking these like terrible blows, and she gets like thrown from the edge and kind of grabs Kanuka's labor and throws it along with her, and they're both kind of just dangling there. And then she climbs out of Noah climbs out of her labor and goes over and takes care of the fucking like, I don't know, hits the kill switch on Kanuka's labor and gets her out of there, and then the movie just ends.
Man, I really like the final like fight sequence between Kanuka's labor and Noah's labor.
Yeah, I thought that was probably my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, there's like a standoff where they're standing and the sun starts to rise. And
yeah,
there was a lot to really like in that last scene. Yeah, but eventually she does save Kanuka, and then the movie ends with them saving the day again.
Yep.
But
yeah, what were your feelings on this movie?
I really liked this movie. I don't know if I liked it as much as the series, but I thought it was pretty good. There were some parts that were a little slow for my taste, but I like the more thriller aspect of them like trying to research and do these detective stuff, because it kind of reminded me of episodes 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So like I like that. There were a couple scenes that were a little slow, in my opinion, but overall I thought it was really good. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought overall, I enjoyed it. I'd say overall I probably enjoyed the series more than I enjoyed this movie. But I thought it was pretty good. Like, decent movie adaptation of like the series. Or I guess not adaptation, but continuation. Continuation, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there were a few. Mostly, I think that mostly the last part really saved it. I really liked pretty much the entire last sequence, and I like the look of the arc. There's a lot of fun design things in this movie.
Yeah, if I had one major criticism, I'd say I thought the first half was kind of meh. It was important setup wise. But
yeah, it was important setup wise. That's just the main part where I just thought a lot of the pacing was kind of iffy.
Yeah,
it wasn't even that I didn't like the stuff that was happening. It was just I'm waiting for the next thing to happen.
Oh, one sequence that I thought was, I don't want to say nice. I enjoyed seeing it. I don't think it was a nice situation though. Was Noah's date with Asuma. Because it's the whole series, you're kind of waiting for them to get together, because it's kind of insinuated, even though he's got a thing for Kanuka, that he obviously is more compatible with Noah, and she's got a thing for him. And he asks her on a date in this movie, and it's oh, this is going to be nice, but it doesn't develop into anything. It's just kind of a rage date, so he can get out for a little while, and it ends with him getting suspended. And it's just
it ends with him leaving her at the place while he's driving to go do something else.
Yeah, and it's just well, man, that didn't. What was the point of that? It didn't feel like it paid off on anything whatsoever. But I mean, they're together in the next movie, or at least very close. So I guess it kind of paid off in that sense, where it's at least he asked her out on a date in this movie, so I guess it was meant to kind of hook those threads together. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
overall, I would probably still give. I would still give this movie a 7. I really liked it.
I would give it a 6.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Patlabor the movie 2, or Patlabor 2 the movie, or the movie 2, Patlabor 2.
Yes. Yes. This is a movie.
This is a movie.
I mean, it's definitely part of the series, but it definitely doesn't feel like it.
I mean, I think
it does and it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
like it's
really politically themed in this one. So this is like there's a big thing in this movie about like fucking like the Japanese Defense Force and like things like that, and being like, that's bad.
Yeah, I know it was like Oshii was making some sort of comment on like kind of Japan during the Cold War with it. Yeah, that's all I know. Like, I didn't do much investigation into it. I just kind of saw like there's like a video on YouTube that I watched like a couple minutes of before I took my shower, where it kind of explained just some of the connections between like Japan during the Cold War, because they were basically just helping America during it, but they were like, oh no, we're not at war, even though they were clearly backing one particular side over the other and gaining monetary or getting money from it, because war is fucking profit. It's just like, but yeah, I didn't watch the full video, but you should check it out. Let me pull up the user so I can properly shout it out, because it seemed like a pretty interesting video that I'm definitely going to watch the whole thing of. It's from a channel called Under the Scope. It's called The Illusion of Peace and Mamoru Oshii, or Oshii's Patlabor 2.
Yeah, so I don't know. You wanna take us over the plot?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, it takes place a few years after the first movie. Noah and Asuma are basically testing new laborers at this facility run by the police. And Oda is an instructor.
Yo, the animation in this opening scene.
Yeah, the whole like mechanical animations like are way higher than they were in the last movie, and they didn't even look bad in the last movie. It's just that they're clearly raising the bar with this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Adding a lot more texture and light and onto like the individual pieces. Like we get like a real Terminator 2-esque shot where we see like all the fucking like metal rods moving in its arm as it kind of like moves its hand and shit like that.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. But basically Shinji, he's like the head of general affairs, and
Oda's like a police academy instructor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, they even fucking yell at him because he's like, no, you gotta make sure to finish him off. And he goes over and they're like,
literally breaks the machinery.
They're like, hey, don't fucking do that. We don't have the budget for that kind of shit for practice. But yeah, so basically, we know that Goto and Shinobu, is that her name? I'm terrible at names.
Shinobi or
Shinobu. They basically like broke up
Shinobu
since the last movie. Yeah, he kind of just took off. But yeah, so basically there's some suspicious events that are happening with a military takeover of Tokyo.
Yeah, literally there's a bombing like pretty much near the very beginning of the movie. Like the fucking bridge is blown up with a missile.
Yeah, and Shinobu's like right there when it happens. She's like on the bridge just further down. And yeah, basically that's like the huge catalyst event for this movie. Basically, she's then kind of forced to go and help out her former comrades. Goto, she has to work closely with him, and it's a little awkward, but...
A little awkward.
But yeah, they basically assemble the original SV2 members and start this secret operation to apprehend this former GSDF officer named Yukihito Suge, who was the officer who planned the terrorist attacks as an act of revenge. Because basically there was this whole United Nations peacekeeping operation in Cambodia that went very wrong a couple years before the movie takes place. And basically, like, the United States is threatening military intervention currently. And it's just like, ew, yikes. But, let me see here. So basically, Godo and Shinobu have been in contact with this guy who basically, like, comes up to him and he's like, you know, I'm kind of the head of this, like, organization, you know, and I've got some information for you guys, you know. They're not telling you everything. Let me feed you some shit under the table. And
this is the guy with the glasses and the lazy eye, right?
Yeah, what's this guy's name? His name is Shigeki Arakawa.
That's right. Shigeki Arakawa.
Yeah. So basically, God, the plot on this Wikipedia page is very light. It's like just a paragraph compared to the other ones that had full-on, like, bios.
Nobody knows what happens in this movie, guys.
It's a lot of political just conversation. Like, it's a lot of, like, moving pieces. So it's just like one of those things where I was just in it, you know, kind of moving along with it. I wasn't really taking notes while I was watching it. I should have done.
I feel that. It's an interesting movie because it's like I want to watch this one again as well. There's a lot to this movie in comparison to the first. Like,
yes, I agree. This is one that I definitely feel like I need to rewatch again.
I feel like I'll like it more the second time. Like, I liked it this time around, but I feel like I'd like it more the second time around. And there's a lot to digest in this one, and I think watching it back to back with the first, I think I was a little worn out from movies.
Yeah.
So I should have, if I had gone in fresh, I think I would have liked it a little more. I still liked it, but I think the second watch will be good for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So basically, by the end of it, because it's like,
there's terrorists,
yeah,
but the terrorists are coming from inside the house, pretty much.
Yeah. So they kind of, like, start figuring this out, and then they end up, like, kind of corresponding, like, the information being given to them by this Arakawa guy. And they're like, oh, this is the guy. This is the guy doing this shit. And then the movie ends with them catching him, and yeah, like, he's using, like, blimps. Like, he was basically, like, holding the town hostage because he had, like, these giant blimps that had a bunch of, like, poisonous gas that may or may not have been used. He kind of, like, lets them take down a blimp partway through the movie, and, like, there's a bunch of, like, yellow smoke that comes out of it, and everyone starts freaking out. And it turns out it's, like, just a false alarm. It's just, like, colored smoke. But the blimp did have actual, like, poison in it that they may or may not have used if the situation called for it. So basically, yeah, they get everybody together and they're like, we gotta fucking take care of this because, you know, otherwise the United States is just gonna come in and take over. So, yeah, he just facilitates the arrest of this guy. And, yeah, it's basically the end of the movie. They, take him away.
There's a lot of moving pieces at the beginning. Like, they have this TV footage. They go to, like, where the TV footage came from, and they find out that it was, like, taken away by someone who was claiming the police officer. And it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then that's when Arakawa really shows up, and he's like, the footage was doctored, and he's like, it wasn't a Japanese plane, it was an American plane. He shows them this footage, and he has a bunch of footage that he, like, faked himself, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But he's pretty much like, it's the handiwork of the National Defense Family, which is a group of, like, military contractors. So they're wanting to pretty much emphasize this need for war so that they can get more business. But then that plane never, like, returned to base. It was stolen, and then they're planning another attack. And then that's when he's like, the guy who did it is Suge. Which, you know, Suge was the bad guy, but so was this guy.
Yeah. And yeah, they, like, arrest him, and they're basically like, why? Why are you still alive? You know, why didn't you fucking off yourself even though you caused this entire fucking mess? He's basically just like, you know, some kind of hopeful for the city. I want to see what it is in the future.
And this big thing in this movie that we haven't really mentioned is Suge, who's, like, supposedly the big bad in the movie, was, like, Shinobu's, like, best friend for a time.
Yeah.
Or were they lovers? Can't remember. They were something.
It kind of looked like it, the way they were locking fingers there at the end.
That's right. Yeah, but they eventually take down everyone, and, you know, a lot of the movie is just a lot of political theory, and there's a lot more philosophical theory in this one. Like, there are long panning shots of, like, buildings and cityscapes as people say, what is war?
Yeah.
There's a big one where they're like, peace, forced peace is just as bad as, like, willing war.
Yeah.
That's, like, a big one. They say, like, 3 times in the movie. But, yeah. No, I really liked this movie, though. The animation was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
There's some really, really good looking stuff. And like I said, I think I'll like it a lot more the second time. It's a really dense movie. More so than I think the first Patlabor. Or even, I would argue it's more dense than, like, Ghost in the Shell. Because I think Ghost in the Shell is pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, they definitely, I don't want to say watered down Ghost in the Shell. Like, I wouldn't use that term to describe that movie at all. But compared to this one, they definitely make, like, the concepts a lot more digestible with the dialogue than they do in this one.
Yeah.
Whether that's
Which is
just
why
through
this is
Patlabor.
This movie, the way I feel about this movie is probably how you kind of feel about Angel's Egg. It's like this movie, I'm like, I need another watch.
Yeah, that's very much how I feel about this one too. I was very burnt out by the time we got to this one because I had watched literally all of the rest of Patlabor leading up to it, on top of Angel's Egg earlier that day. So I was just like...
you know, in some ways I like doing that. Like, I like the feeling of having both the Patlabor movies back to back. Like, I like the going through those motions, but I was just... I wasn't expecting this movie to be so dense with its philosophical theory.
Yeah, based off the rest of the series, I wasn't expecting it to be as exactly as dense and fucking heady as it was. So it was just
because the ideas are there, they're present in the series and they're present in the first movie, but they're accessible and they don't, like, dive deep into them.
Yeah.
And then literally the main theme of Patlabor 2 is, like, the status of Japan, which had just been, like, going through a bunch of stuff. Like, the Cold War, it was just ending in Japan, like, during the time the movie was coming out, and it was just, like... And the idea that, they couldn't go into another war after surrendering in World War II. It's just, there's so much stuff that I, like, need to know about Japan, too.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it was a pretty great movie. Personally, I really liked it. Out of the 3 Patlabor things, this was my favorite.
Yeah. In that video, I was saying that I was talking about earlier. One of the things that the dude in that video had mentioned was how this film has one specific audience that it tends to go over the heads of a lot, and that is the American audiences.
And I mean, I get it. I get most of it. I just want to. I think that I am 70% getting it. Yeah. So I think I need one more watch.
I need to do a little reading up on Japan during post World War II and leading into the end of the Cold War up until this movie came out. I need just that little bit more context, and I feel I would get this movie a lot more.
But I still really liked it. It has some really great animation, and I really, really love the soundtrack in this one. I liked the soundtrack in the first one, but this one I really liked a lot more.
Yeah. I feel kind of split on this one, because I really I enjoyed it, and I feel I'll really like it a lot more on a second watch. And I like this movie, but I don't really like it as a Patlabor movie, just simply because a lot of the characters I really liked didn't get very much screen time in it.
That's true. I was, and I was still fine with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the characters were barely even in it. Yeah.
But
I still really liked it. I get what you're saying about being a Patlabor movie, though.
Yeah. And it doesn't even feel like a bad Patlabor movie, because it obviously does take a lot of the themes that the series was building up and kind of...
It's just the inclusion of the characters. You're I wish Hiromi was over around here more.
Yeah. But,
where's Oda? Being crazy.
Yeah. Why hasn't Oda shot anybody in the face throughout this entire franchise? I feel like they were building up to it and it never happened. No. But... yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to give it a 7 for now. I acknowledge I'll probably give it a higher rating if I'm to watch it again, though.
Maybe we'll do a redux episode on just this movie in a couple months.
Yeah, I'd probably
just a special one-off, half an hour episode. It'd be pretty good. I'm going to give it an 8. Like I said, I really like it. It's my favorite of the Patlabor. I just think that on a rewatch, I'll like it more. Because the density.
Yes.
But yeah, especially I wasn't expecting this to be that dense, because I watched Ghost in the Shell and I was spoiler alert, I like Ghost in the Shell, but I think it's pretty fucking easy to understand.
Yeah.
As in they spit it out to you.
The concepts in that movie are just very familiar. To the modern day. At the time when they came out, they might have been more cutting edge, but I feel like a lot of the whole concepts explored in Ghost in the Shell I was very familiar with, just through shit that was inspired by Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, so let's talk about Ghost in the Shell, shall we?
Yeah.
So this, a fun fact about Patlabor, we didn't know what to say, but it took place in 1998, 1999 for the movie, and 2002 for the second movie. Yeah. And obviously we don't have giant robots, so. But Ghost in the Shell takes place in 2029, and the human body can be super augmented with cybernetic technology. That's one of the big things. And there's the spoiler. We'll talk about the ghost, the idea of the ghost real quick. Ghost refers to the consciousness or the soul, kind of embodying the body or the shell. So ghost, whenever they talk about ghosts in this movie, they're talking about kind of the soul.
Yeah.
But it takes place, we follow Major Motoko Kusanagi. And she is a assault team leader.
Yeah.
She can go invisible.
Yeah, she's part of section public security section 9, and you get a very the different sections are very opposing to each other, because section 9 and section 6 are at each other's throats the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's basically part of this assault squad for section 9. And the movie begins with basically what's the name of the place? It's like starts with a G. Can't remember the name.
Japan.
Japan. No, God, what was it? I'm not seeing it here on the page. Okay.
What are you talking about?
The like other place that like people keep trying to like seek asylum from. Like that that little upstart nation that they talk about.
Japan.
Alright, well I'm not seeing it here on the page, but basically like there's this little nation that's starting up, and the movie begins with like an official from that place coming over and basically trying to work out this thing with a political asylum. And the main character, Motoko, does a hit job. She takes him out, and we see her like fall from the rooftop, and she's got like this cybernetic invisibility cloak that she wears that like makes her kind of go invisible.
I really like the look of the invisibility in this movie.
Yeah, so do I. I like a lot of like the kind of aesthetic that they gave to a lot of the technology in this movie.
I like the look is like as they start fading away, you just see like the things behind them start to just get like diluted.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Predator effect.
Yeah, it just looks better in animation.
Yes, it does.
Or at least it's aged a lot better. I'm sure when Predator came out, people were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I'm sure. But basically, yeah, so they're just kind of working for this team. Basically, like...
They're looking for the Puppet Master?
Yes, the Puppet Master.
Every time they said Puppet Master, I'm just like, uh-oh, I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah, there's basically... Somebody keeps, like, hacking people's brains and, like, using it to get into, like, situations and areas they ain't supposed to, like, the foreign minister's interpreter is, like, hacked, and that's, like, the first thing we see of this, and basically they're like, alright, well, how did this person get hacked? So they kind of follow the phone lines where they believe she got hacked from, and it's here where we find that there's, like, these garbage guys that are, like, going around, and one of them has this card, and he's going up to, like, different, like, they're not phone booths, they're, like, phone boxes kind of things.
Phone box, computer things.
Yeah, and he
future phone.
He's basically, like, hitting every single one and just hacking it, because some shady dude at a bar told him, was like, oh, yeah, like, you can, like...
This is how you can get in contact with your daughter.
Yep. So he's like, yep, just doing this for my little girl, And his coworker's like, you're a piece of shit, I fucking hate you.
I don't think it's that harsh, but
he comes pretty fucking close. Like, he doesn't go that far. Like, I was a little over dramatic with that, but like, he's like, man, my last guy was like an immigrant who didn't speak like a lick of Japanese, but he was better than you. And then there's like a scene where he's like, hey, you want to see this picture of my daughter? And he's like, get that shit out of here. I hate seeing shit like that. He's just like a fucking asshole. But yeah, so basically, oh god, what's that one cop's name? The second.
Boda? Or, like, which one? The one with the robot eyes? Or the one that... I think it's Boda? Bato. Yeah, Bato. Yes. Boda. I was thinking Budo, the bird.
Yeah, Budo, the bird. The famous bird. That your people who listen to this would know. Because I'm pretty sure everyone who listens to this is in that friend group for the most part.
No, we got people from Peru.
Yeah, so...
Hi, Peru.
Yeah. There's a famous bird named Budo. But, yes.
Yes, but Bato I like his robot eyes.
Yeah, so he basically, like, kind of passes by this garbage truck, and then he's like, hey, did you seen anyone use this phone booth? And some dude's like, yeah, I was throwing my rubbish out, and Yeah.
I saw the garbage man
guys.
using the rubbish, using that, so I thought I had time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh god, get him!
So they chase after him, and they basically, like, when, fucking, Motoko? Is that her name?
Motoko.
Oh, yes, Motoko. I'm really bad with names. Anyway, Motoko, basically, like, kind of, like, looks it up on the police server, which notifies the garbage guys. It's like, hey, you know, the police are looking for us. And then he freaks out. He's like, I gotta go tell the guy who gave me this hacker card. So he just, like, rushes over to, like, the area where this dude hangs out, where he just sees him. And he's, like, screaming out the window. He's like, hey, they found us! And he sees, like, the police vehicle tailing him right behind. And this dude's like, ah, shit. So he fucking throws on his invisibility cloak and whips out his gun, which has, like, a bunch of these bullets that are super, like, penetrating, but they're obviously not meant for this gun, because this dude doesn't have very long to shoot before the gun just kind of breaks on him and he runs out of ammo. But so basically, yeah, this dude, like, shoots up the garbage truck, and both Bato and Motoko are, like, going after him, and they get him. You know, they beat him up, and he's like, what the fuck? And they're like, do you even fucking remember anything?
This scene, I really like this scene, because when Motoko's fighting this guy, she goes invisible, but as she, like, hits him onto the ground, she, like, appears for just a second, but then she disappears again, but her shadow's still there.
Yeah, I like that.
In the water, and I'm like, that's really fucking cool. And you can see, like, the displacement of the water around her legs.
Yeah, I really liked that. I thought this whole little fight sequence is pretty cool. But, yeah, so they get this guy, and it turns out, like, he doesn't know shit. He's just basically programmed to do this. And same with the garbage man. We find out he doesn't have an ex-wife or a daughter. That they were all just implanted memories. And that whatever memories he did have were completely fucking erased. Probably not going to come back.
It's not even that, like, they were necessarily, like, erased.
Yeah, they just got, like,
but they were just inserted. So, like, and they can't, like, get rid of the implanted memories. So he just has them.
Yeah.
And that's probably, like, the most horrifying idea that's, like, inserted into this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, sure. Oh my god.
But, yeah. So, basically, they've kind of come to this dead end again. They're like, oh, it's the puppet master. We know he was, like, just basically controlling people. And so, it's from this point where, let me try to remember. It's like the boat scene, isn't it, where she's diving? That might happen a little later. Let me see.
I remember the boat scene, but I don't remember where the fuck that was in the movie.
I know it's before they, like, get the puppet master, obviously, like, before, like, the person gets hit.
Okay, so then it would be right now, pretty much.
Yeah. Because I know, like, this scene ends with them, like... I'm trying to remember, because I know that there's, like, the scene where they, like, look up at the sky and the helicopter's coming down and they talk to their, like, chief guy who's following the supposed puppet master, and they're like, well, how's your puppet master? And he's like, this guy's just a fucking puppet. And then... Let's see. Let me actually, like, look into this paragraph here and try to figure out where we are. Oh, yeah, I guess it pretty much is right around here when those guys, like, hit the body and find the ghost in the brain.
Yeah, they find, like, this ghost, which is supposed to be, like, a human consciousness. They find it in this computer brain. So, like, what?
Yeah, and they can't find any traces that this was, like, ever, like, human or whatever. They're like, what the fuck? None of the signs that normally accompany a ghost waiver here. What the fuck? And this basically, like, just kind of breaks the main character. You know, she's kind of questioning her existence.
Yeah.
Because we...
But then knock... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because we kind of lightly treaded over the diving scene. There's a scene where she's diving, and she gets on her boat, and Bato is there, and they kind of just talk, and she has, like, this kind of existential talk where she's basically explaining, you know, what, like, basically, like, how she's just the sum of her environment, her chemical processes in her brain, or the electrical impulses. How basically, like, who she is comes down to, like, a shit ton of external factors. And kind of questioning her individuality. But
yeah,
at the same time acknowledging that it is individuality. And then her ghost speaks to her, you know, talks about, like, right now it's like seeing an image, like a dim image in a mirror, but the closer you get, you know, we'll come face to face. So then the whole body with the ghost waves that they find happens. And then fucking Section 6 shows up, and they basically, like, stage this whole kidnapping. And while
they say, they're like, this is the puppet master. We lured him into this body.
And then the puppet master's like, I actually don't have a body.
It reactivates and is like, I am sentient. I request asylum.
And then he says his, like, project name, and then they do, like, the whole abduction thing before he says too much. And this clearly, like, they're leaving. Earlier, like, the whole trio, Motoko, Abato, and the third guy who is mostly human.
Togusa? Is it Togusa? Is that his name?
Maybe.
Togusa, yeah.
Togusa. Yeah, basically, Togusa notices some strange things while they're leaving the building, while the Section 6 guy and this mysterious other guy who's American follows him in, and they're like, what the fuck was that? So he kind of, like, does some investigative research, and he's like, oh yeah, no, they're totally... One of those guys is a robot, so they kind of plan to go back in, and then the whole abduction thing happens, and they're like, we gotta get that body back. You know, we gotta get the puppet master back. Because this whole thing is clearly some internal affairs, like, the puppet master, you know, they're not looking for him to catch him. They're looking for him to get him back. Because they don't want to cause an international ruckus over this project that they should not have been doing. But basically, yeah, they chase the puppet master down.
Because it got kidnapped in this car, and they find it in, like, an abandoned building, and there's, like, it's just parked, and then there's actually an invisible tank.
Yeah, so, while, Bato kind of chased, because there's basically a point where they're like, we don't know which car it is, there's two identical cars. Bato, you chase that one, I'll chase this one. And, she chased hers basically on her ghost's intuition. So, obviously, Bato's was a dead end, and she's like, well, I'm gonna fight this tank with this puny little potato gun I've got. And he's
Bato's like, are you a fucking idiot?
He's like, wait, I'll just wait a minute, I'll be there with a bigger gun. She's like, nope. And she goes...
she's like, we don't have time. We're gonna lose him if that happens.
Yep, and she goes in, and she gets fucking wrecked, and she's about to die, but Bato shows up last second, and saves her, and then he basically, like, links her up with the puppet master, where the puppet master reveals, he's like, yo, I'm basically, like, the sum of all information, data, you know, all that. I gained sentience, and I, you know, figured out my own existence. But,
yeah, he was an espionage fucking program. Or I guess it was an espionage. It's interesting because the puppet master has a masculine voice, but, like, a female body, and obviously never, you know, doesn't. Yeah, you know, it's weird calling him a he, but
they call him a he in the movie at one point. But
okay,
it because there's, like, the whole line where it's like Section 6 first shows up and they're like, we got him. And the dude,
That's right.
makes it seem kind of like a Freudian slip where the dude's like, whoa, we don't actually know the gender. We're just referring to the puppet master here. But, yeah, so basically they link up and the puppet master reveals he's like, all that information about where he came from. And he's basically like, even though like I'm like kind of great in some ways as a living sentient creature, I've got some de facto bits. Like, I'm obviously not up to snuff.
He wants to be able to die, and he wants to be able to reproduce.
Yep. So he put himself into this body, and now he wants to basically like reproduce by meshing his consciousness with Motoko's, and then
Kusanagi.
Yeah, and basically, therefore, creating a new offspring, essentially, like a child. So this happens. Some helicopters up above are like scoping it out, and like at the very last second, they shoot, but therefore destroying both machines, but Motoko's head survives.
Yeah, they want to destroy the brains of Puppet Master and Kusanagi, but Kusanagi's head survives, and fucking Bato dives in and grabs it.
Yeah. And it ends up, like, getting a child body, like, from the black market and putting her head on that, and when she comes to, he basically, like, fills her in. He's like, yeah, this happened, Basically, everything turned out alright, they took the Puppet Master, whatever. Shit's in the clear, we're basically got off scot-free. And then he's like, so, your monitor got cut off. I couldn't hear what you were saying. I only heard what he was saying. Did you fuse? Are you still you?
Are you Kusanagi? And it's like, I'm not Kusanagi anymore, but I'm not the Puppet Master either. I'm something new.
And he's like, oh, well, that's great. And kind of get along. They pass along like that secret code where it's like, if we ever meet again, we'll have the secret code number. And then
just the project number 2501.
Yeah. And then she goes outside and she's basically like, well, the web's deep. Where do I go from here? I'm free. Yeah, that's basically the movie ends. And I kind of like this. I really like the ending, especially since we were given that insight during the diving scene where basically, like, you could tell that maybe the main character was dealing with some regret with her cybernetic upgrades, because basically, like, you join the police force, they give you these...
And they own you, pretty much.
Yeah, they give you these cybernetic upgrades, which are great, You gotta go in for maintenance and stuff, and it's like, you're basically like a superhuman. You've got, like, this super smart brain, you've got this great body that's like super combat.
Visible.
Yeah. But the price is, like, you're basically stuck working for this police department, and if you ever retire, they take away everything they gave you, which is pretty much everything. And who's telling what was originally you would stick around when they take out their upgrades,
Yeah.
And,
but she escapes that fate by pretending that she's dead.
Yep.
No, it's a good movie. I like a lot of the questions it poses. Most of the movie it's just like, what makes a human? What makes us conscious? What makes a sentient life form?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Puppet Master poses. Like, what's the difference between a robot gaining consciousness and a human brain in a robot? Like, there's no difference.
Yeah.
I always like robots gaining sentience.
Yeah. I like this movie. I like a lot of the themes. I felt like I had already seen a lot of it before in, like, Blade Runner, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie, at least compared to the first Blade Runner, tackles a lot of those themes much better. And I'm a big fan of the first Blade Runner, but that movie's a lot of just kind of quietness and doesn't really, like, take time to discuss a lot of it as in-depth as this film does.
True.
But, yeah. I like this one quite a bit. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it.
There's some, most of the questions posed within it, most of the things said, have been said before, or have been said since, like, quite a bit. But I don't think that takes away from how good the movie is. I don't think it's, like, groundbreaking in most of what it's saying. I think some of what Oshii says in some of his other films are, like, pretty groundbreaking. But I think this film's really solid, and it's really easy to watch. Like, it's out of, like, you know, the movies we've watched, this and the first Patlabor movie are, like, the easy ones to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because sitting down for this one, I was like, oh man, this is probably going to be like Patlabor 2, and I'm going to be, like, just having to fucking, like, pause and rewind and make sure, like, I understood, like, everything correctly that they were, like, saying. But
yeah,
no, it was fairly light. Like, I didn't have to really do a whole lot of, like, pausing and going, like, oh, what the fuck, what do they mean by that?
But at the same time, I kind of was hoping for something, like, super deep and crazy, and I don't think it wasn't as like, it just wasn't as great as I was expecting. Which is okay. I still really liked it.
Yeah, I think it about met my expectations. Like, obviously I knew that I wasn't expecting this to groundbreak me with a lot of, like, the ideas that it was going to tackle, because obviously, like we said, so many things have taken inspiration from this movie since it came out. And there are things similar to it before it came out, so obviously that wasn't going to get me. But the presentation, the characters, like, just kind of like the surface level plot of it, I thought all of that was very good, very well done.
Yeah. No, I pretty much liked all the characters. Did you watch this subbed or dubbed?
I watched it dubbed. I had the subtitles up, though, and I liked some of those translations better. Like, the very beginning of the film, they're like, oh, wow, you're having a lot of, like, thoughts in your head today. What's going on? And in the dub, she says, like, oh, you know, just got a lot on the mind, or something lame like that. But in the sub, she's like, I'm on my period. And I was like, what? I love that. It's a great response. But, yeah. I thought it was a good dub overall, though. Aside from that one line, it was pretty accurate.
I like most dub. I don't really care for Motoko's dub voice.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was kind of like drone, and
yeah, and I understand, like, the point of that, but
yeah,
like, oh, as you lose humanity, as you lose who you are, you become less of a human. I get that. It kind of sounded a little grating to me after listening to it for an hour straight. But it was fine. That was, like, my only issue with the dub. Other than that, I pretty much liked everything in the movie.
Yeah.
I would give this one a 7 as well.
I would probably give this one an 8. I liked this one quite a bit.
8? Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful indeed.
Alrighty. Well, let's go through the rankings here. So,
all right. So what did you think I would do?
Okay. So I was like, So I'm going to start from the bottom here and work my way up. So I just assumed that the Patlabor OVA might not hit for you as well as the movies did. So I put that at the bottom for you, and then I assumed Ghost in the Shell would be your second least favorite out of the bunch. Just kind of, like, for reasons I explained, like, by today's standards, it's not, like, as groundbreaking. So I figured that would probably play into your overall score quite a bit. And then I figured the first Patlabor movie, then the second Patlabor movie, and I figured your favorite would be Angel's Egg.
Thomas, that's exactly correct.
I did it.
It's interesting because the bottom three, those Patlabor OVA series, Ghost in the Shell, and the Patlabor movie, they're all pretty similar in quality to me. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
but
I figured, like, there wouldn't be, like, too much in between them. But if I had to put them in order, I figured it was going to be that. I did it. I won.
Mine is completely false for you.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think. Well, at the bottom, actually, the bottom I know is correct. The bottom I have the first Patlabor movie. Then I have the Patlabor OVA series.
Okay.
And then I have Ghost in the Shell. And then I have Patlabor 2, and then I have Angel's Egg.
Yeah, no, that's not right. I mean,
yep. I got the bottom one right.
You got the bottom one right. But yeah, no, it was Patlabor for my least, the movie. Then the second movie, and then Patlabor, the OVA above that. Those two might switch at some point. It's just my current standing on Patlabor 2 is a little hazy, just simply because of the factors we discussed. And then Angel's Egg and Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, okay. Okay, well. Yeah, I was all sorts of wrong. Okay, well. Still, good episode. I'm excited to watch more Oshii films.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check out.
I say that about every single director we watch, and then I don't watch any more of their films.
I do the exact same thing, but I'm probably at least going to check out, if not more of Oshii's work, more a work that spins off of it, because I'm definitely going to watch...
Like the Standalone Complex and the third Patlabor.
That and the Patlabor series as well.
The third Patlabor is actually takes place in between the first movie and the second movie.
Really?
Fun fact. Yeah, it takes place a year after the first movie's events.
Maybe one of these days I'll just I'll like sit down, I'll watch the first movie, the third movie, then the second movie, and I'll feel better about it. Maybe.
So for the next couple episodes episode 50 is obviously our big one, where we're gonna rehash what we did the first one, but make it bigger and better. But until then, we're going to be doing some special episodes. We're going to be covering trilogies. We might do a couple movies, or a couple television shows. We're just going to try to make it kind of special. And then we're going to be reworking things after episode 50. So, Thomas, for next week, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you want it to be animated or live action?
I'm in an anime mood. The fans might not want it, but I want more anime. So, go animated.
Then we're going to be covering 2 anime OVA series.
Okay. Is that what I think it is?
Gunbuster.
Yes.
And
Diebuster.
Gunbuster 2, Diebuster.
Okay.
Both are like 3 hours in total.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
So, yeah.
I shit you not. I was thinking of, I know I've been like all week. I'm like, London, you need to watch Gunbuster. But I was just about to I was like, fuck it. If he's not going to do it, I'm going to watch Gunbuster. So.
No, it's Gunbuster. If you were going to say live action, actually, I'll just save it because we'll probably watch the other ones I have in mind in the week after next.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm excited. I really liked a lot of the movies here, and I'm excited. I feel like I'm gonna love Gunbuster. I have a feeling, even though I was kind of, lukewarm on fucking Evangelion, I think this Anno film, it's gonna blow me away. I have a feeling.
Yeah. I hope I didn't hype it up too much for you. I think it's. I love Gunbuster. I think it's great. I think it kind of captures the tone of early Patlabor pretty well. Where it's
also, I've seen a couple clips from Gunbuster, and it looks like it'd be my jam.
Yeah, I think it's a great little just 6-episode anime. I always enjoy watching it. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. I'd probably say at highest I would rate it an 8, but I'm probably more realistically a strong 7. But I fucking love this series. It's a lot of fun. I always enjoy it. I love the characters. It's got a lot of great stuff in it, and I'm excited to have you finally watch it. And I haven't seen Diebuster, but I've heard great things. So
cool. Yeah, it's because we're obviously not working and stuff. I'll probably also watch the compilation movie that ties in the two. It doesn't really add anything, but I just want to see how it works. I'm not saying we should watch it. I'm just...
Yeah.
I'm just going to.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Well, we finished another exciting episode of Screen Weens. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz, and tell your grandma.
Absolutely.
All right, time to go watch Demonic Toys 2. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.